sitting in a 4v3.
Everfrog Esports trying to find what angle they can, trying to find somebody out of position.
We're gonna go through on this. Oh, what a whoa! Whoa! See White gonna go in.
It's going to be a really, really interesting one.
Oh my god. All of this competition could be so damn close, so I cannot wait for us to finally decide who's going to be the champion. We are expecting some chaos, some great moments.
Abismo has killed 3. Only gonna really need that rampage, so gonna clear it out. Santi gonna get themselves a big old 4K. Oh. Santi getting rid of 3, clearing out the house.
That is crazy.
Nunji actually kills 3 people.
This team feels entirely different on this faster composition. Now Saga 4 is hanging around, getting onto the high ground. Post bomb's gonna stick under Leaky. You're not gonna be able to survive it at the end of the day. Blue manages to find a 3K.
Rio shoving this Ana into a corner. Woo! One more for the road for Rio.
That is all signs go. Melophobia with 3 Melophobia. Start the fight. They'll end the fight. Oh my god. Beagle Bus, they have to play aggressively into this energy. Popping off in a moment where you needed just that. Ruby in that backline. Oh, the flick. Looking for it. Oh my goodness. The 4th one as well. Do they get the ace? They get the ace.
Hey everybody, welcome to another fantastic day here for the CGL playoffs. Hope y'all are having a fantastic Saturday so far. And we've been nearly 2 weeks into these playoffs, and while a lot of divisions are already starting to come down to the last couple of teams, things are still very active in the open divisions, especially here in EU. And hey, we got ourselves a great matchup today, a lower bracket match between T4 Demons and Bliss Marauders T6. And Spectron, 2 teams that have themselves a fantastic season, but find themselves in the very first round of that lower bracket.
Yeah, both teams unfortunately losing out in their first round matchups in 0-3 fashion to WBC Dream Eaters as well as Aura Farmers. I think it's fair to say Aura Farmers probably the favorites of this entire tournament, realistically. They said as much and cruised through their first matchup. Bliss Marauders had the unfortunate matchup into them, whereas T4 Demons could find absolutely no into the double nat backline of Dream Eaters. So now they have to play each other. It's going to be an elimination matchup to see who continues, the winner of which will have the unfortunate loser of MSU and Smelvin in the future to match up towards if they again want to continue. So I think not the end of the world for these 2 rosters. You're still fighting, you're still alive, but you'd really rather, you know, continue through that upper bracket. And it's a long run towards that grand finals, that prize pool position.
Yeah, I mean, you get yourself that 1 win, you start to carry forth a little bit of that momentum. It could be a different story for MSU or Smelvin, who take that loss, and teams obviously react differently when they lose a game. Some bounce back very easily, some others not always the case. So we'll see what the situation is. Obviously, both teams focus on this game here and now because this has to be the start of that lower bracket run for them. And if it's going to happen, it's going to be a long one, so you want to get off to the best start humanly possible, especially both these teams, they come in today, they end up being 4th and 6th place in the regular season respectively. Dan, a fantastic job of being able to get here in the first place, but at this stage of the game, obviously standings from the regular season, that's out the door. As far as you're concerned, you're 0-1. You need to get that dub here and get things rolling.
I mean, we'll simply have to see how things work out, as maybe a strong start has some extra momentum can help carry you through that lower bracket, you know, with the benefit of having a win previously played rather than a loss. You can hopefully snowball through your next matchup and see how far things take you, but as we've mentioned time and time again, it's not where you want to be. So definitely tricky, and I think some teams are definitely still struggling with the mid-season patch as well that really messed around with the strength of certain heroes, most notably Tracer, Genji, significantly weaker now, and so teams who maybe lent on their flex DPS players having to get a little bit creative to find that same amount of value. Hit scan's so much more important. If your flex DPS has a Reaper or a Venture, so much more important. And that's kind of what we expect to see today. Like Cassidy especially being strong, but Soj Freya as well, still in very good places. Ashe as well, in fact, remember?
Yeah.
I mean, changes to her perks, some extra damage fall off remove. She's so powerful right now.
Yeah, definitely a lot has changed here. Some teams have adapted better than others. We'll see what will be the case in that today. But of course, we got to figure out not just how we're starting, but where we're starting out. Spectre and obviously Control, always the name of the game for this first map. And it's already determined, and it is El Familiar coming our way here. It's going to be Lijiang Tower. And I mean, Spec, I could sit here all day and talk about this map, but we understand. Everyone knows what we're getting into and what this map typically tends to lean towards.
I just lean towards the individual style of the team more than anything else, right? I mean, Lijiang Tower is pretty wide open. I think that's one of the reasons it is so popular. Brawl, obviously, a smidge more prevalent as we look towards something like a control center. You look at more angles-based stuff, you know, Bull, Tracer, Pharah. On the other two, most specifically Tower. Right, but Night Market, kind of anything goes, and I think that's why this map is so popular. Teams will literally play whatever the hell they want to within reasonable bounds, you know, considering what bans you have and all that. And then going off of that, then teams will adapt and keep dueling throughout the series. Bans going to be coming through first. Tier 4 Demons, the ones with that first ban. Right now, the bans we expect, we probably look at backline bans most likely. Lucio, Kiriko, Juno are probably the best ones to target in this economy. And then you're looking at which hits can you want to get rid of. Tracer, though, very interesting. She's not weak by any means, but a ban on the Tracer reflects to me equally as much as a DPS protect as it does that they are worried about that flanker.
Yeah, because, I mean, you get somebody who is just that good on a Tracer, no matter if the nerfs have come through, it can be really difficult to deal with them in a situation like that. Gonna nix it right then and there, but now Bliss Marauders, Tier 6, gotta get their own pick rolling through here. It's going to be the Lucio, as you suggested to earlier, and that means a lot of these speed compositions, if you decide to opt for the speed, a lot of them have to go down the route of that Juno, but the question is whether or not you even opt for it entirely now that the Tracer and the Lucio are taken out of action.
Yeah, Lucio ban incredibly powerful, I have to say. Your backline options are so much more limited. Juno Brig has been making somewhat of a resurgence, but in a limited form. The backline definitely isn't as strong as it was, you know, about 360 days back. So you could, I wouldn't hate it, but equally, if I am one of these rosters, I'm maybe thinking about playing like a double flex, like a Bap Kiri even. You want something that is viable everywhere, and so I do think your best option probably will end up being something like a Bat Brig setup. You can't play as Brawl, but your poke is still strong, your angle support is still strong. As long as your backline know how to stand, then you'll end up finding decent value still.
Yep, 100%, but we're all ready to get into this one, get this action started right out the gate. And, you know, again, with that Lucio being taken out, teams are going to have to be creative. They decide to be quick, but for the time being, it is right now the Kiriko being paired up, and hey, Juno by Kill the Hog as well to get them out some speed.
Yeah, Kiriwu, pretty strong. Each of your supports doesn't have to play with one another because of their mobility, because of their survivability. You've got great angle support, great damage especially. But in exchange, if you do manage to get someone set up on them, there's not a lot they can do. So squaring up right now, Ashe versus the cast, the main difference is Bliss Marauders want to play a bit more for the Brawl, whereas Tier 4 Demons, an extended poke phase will win out the day for them.
Yeah, definitely what they're hoping for right now, but gotta be a little bit careful if you are attacked. Don't want to pick at that wrong time, get your head taken off. That is just how good the Ashe can be right now. But hey, I say that. Yep, goes the exact opposite way, though attacks does eventually fall, so we go back to this 4v4 format. Eventually have to getting out of there is GG Celix right now, trying to stay alive, eventually going to be taken down, and that should cause the collab start going from here, but again, goes a little too far forward. Pickman, gonna be able to survive, but for the time being, Bliss Marauders take over the point.
That they will, but it's not particularly comfortable. So if I am Bliss Marauders, I'm still looking for a trade, looking for a way to equalize. Signal goes incredibly low multiple times. Takes all the work possible from Arcane Kill the Hog, but still active. That means Bliss Marauders have to just try and play their lives for as long as possible here.
Yeah, Nebo just got to get on the outside, rest a little bit here. Can afford to give a little bit of that progress over for Sherwayan. A lot of cooldowns have been expended early on, though, so going to be a bit of a rough situation. Simply have to hide away for as long as you can right here, try to build them back up, wait for the proper opportunity. But I mean, Nepo was constantly getting hacked, constantly getting pushed away. Eventually it's going to come to some level of fruition. It's down to Bliss Marauders to try to pull this one back around, and hey, with a Deadeye, with a rush, they could definitely be contenders back into this fight.
This is so aggressive on this Genji, and eventually it costs him. A balloon connects from Azuya. Ultimate's popped both ways, but that bubble is popped quick. The Wang eliminated, and Bliss Marauders still in control of the point. I've got to say, Nepu maybe not playing the best of which we've seen from him, missing quite a few spears, but thankfully attacks and Icos are just gassed to 11 all the time, playing so aggressively, and it's working out in favor of the Marauders.
Yep, and now you're coming up on a lot on both sides. That EMP, though, right around the corner could be a big difference maker within this fight, but especially this Peckman has the Kasune Rush. Now, Bliss Marauders don't really have a proper response, but they're going to go super aggressive, too, right out the gate here. Nobody going to go down to that Terror Surge, and now Bob going to cause a little bit of disruption over on that point, but Nepu ends up being the first one going down, point beginning to open up for Tier 4 Demons. At this stage of the game, you give it up, you take your reset, but Attacks does get Larvin on the way out.
Yeah, nice to have that point percentage on your way, and equally lovely to do it while saving through some of your more important ultimates, right? You still got that EMP for the next fight. You could have a Kitsune advantage on your opponents as well. If I'm Tier 4 Demons, I'm mostly looking for a front. Oh my god!
Oh no, no!
Oh, I was so close!
Scared for my life right there. I would be absolutely terrified if I was Echoes in that situation, but now, hey, you got that blade around that corner. That EMP, though, is still there, ready to go. Could be a tasty blade going away. Gets hindered out, destroyed on the spot. Yeah, unfortunately, you hit that blade, everybody turns and looks at you. Now, EMP is here, obviously, going to be held on to. Just going to get a couple of quick cleanups. Kasune Rush did get used during that fight, so Kill the Hog takes a late death there along with RK. But, hey, at the same time, Kill the Hog is going to have that Kasune Rush right around the corner.
Lovely late deaths there. I mean, Tier 4 Demons have so much time on this fight. Yeah, Kill the Hog will have Kitsu advantage, but Tier 4 Demons can EMP it and still be relatively comfortable in their matchup in this fight. This is Genji, a bit of a pickle. Virus, however, missing the Icos. Maybe a chance to survive, maybe not. Great headshot from Peckman.
Yeah, and now there's not a whole lot you can do being down this early. Your Genji being taken out of the fight. You pretty much have to take the reset, let things go, but the problem is now, coming up to 70% and counting, GG Zugs can kind of take their time a little bit and just set up this EMP however they desire.
Indeed. Selex does their best to extricate themselves, will be allowed to. Kitsune Rush their pops, and a flash and a hack means that the bubble needs to be popped onto Icos.
Yeah, now Deadeye being expected in the back, but it's going to come out there. Larvin taking care of EMP, comes out, catches on to quite a couple of members, but nobody going down quite yet. Eventually, Attacks is going to be the one to fall. See that Terror Surge in the backline, not going to get a whole lot. Snell being separated from their team, needs a little bit of care here to keep this going. Unfortunately, nothing going to go their way, and it is becoming the stall game very quickly here for Tier 4 Demons, and eventually going to get Kill the Hog on the way out, but eventually goes through, and I do not know about using that Terror Surge there.
I mean, it got the job done, I guess. And it's not like the opposing team is particularly wealthy heading into this next fight as well, but you'd rather have it, you know, compared to the alternative here. Put the barrier here, at least. But Peckman with that Kitsune Rush might be the decider here to take point one.
Yeah, it just might be.
No way, by the way. That's so
but
stupid.
yeah, I don't know how that happens right there, but now Sable has to move up. Needs a little bit of care. Start moving forward. Tier 4 Demons definitely a lot within their hands right now. The advantage just grows further and further away. 99% on the board. You eventually have to just go if your Echoes onto the point. Try to get one more touch. Ever going for it. Not going to happen, but 100 to 99 to get things started. These teams pretty close-knit to get things going.
Yeah, it's a bit trolled at the end there for Bliss Marauders, unfortunately. I mean, we use our Terror Surge for no reason, and then our Genji essentially jumps off the map unprompted. We could have made a harder final fight for them, but we are seeing, you know, it being pretty even back and forth. I know I leveled some criticism at Nepa earlier. I feel like I have to reiterate that. On the Orisa, I quite like some of the positioning, some of the spins, but in terms of the spears, we have not seen a single one connect that I thought was particularly, like, value, right? I would love to see that improved if at all possible, but it seems like a swap is instead going to the option for a March route, not as strong as maybe he once was. Oh, no, they're swapping back.
Yeah, but TP out, just gonna opt to TP them straight out instead of going into the window. Want to opt for that Genji once again. If your Echo says Tier 4 Demons have the early start over here, but Bliss Marauders saying, nah, we're not taking this fight, we're going directly over to that point, and now they are able to kind of stabilize directly on there, and Tier 4 Demons have to put themselves in an awkward position trying to get onto this point.
Nepu forced to just hide for the entirety of that goal, just simply way too low, struggling to get healing because his team needs it equally as much as he does. Icos down low, Attacks able to find a trade, but not quite sure how valuable it is.
Yeah, and Tier 4 Demons do come out of the gate and take care of this point, but you're still kind of hanging around if you're everybody else on the side of Bliss Marauders. You could potentially come away with this one if you get rid of Signal, but Signal ends up falling down at that last possible second. Now Attacks hanging on to the point, has a little bit of care. In fact, does have that Deadeye on the corner just in case, but with that hack being present, I can't imagine it's going to be pulled at this moment.
Dude, Attacks is doing the Lord's work. Anytime it's a miracle needed for Bliss Marauders, it feels like it's a double or triple ding from the Cassidy to allow them to escape that. Look at the ult charges. Ico's 40% of the way to a blade. Attacks already has the Noon.
Yeah, 100%. And going to be pulled out for Lovren right here. Doesn't get hit with that spear. Simply has to pull that corner. Nice little hack right there. Awkward position to be. But deflection is there perfectly. But it's not going to save. Echo's being taken care of. And now Deadeye activated. You're trying to find the hack onto attacks. And it does go through. So Bliss Marauders, while they are staying in this 2A degree, GG Celtics has been taken out. They're trying to go back onto the point with the tidal wave as well. RK thinks this is winnable. And at this point, it's looking like it is.
Yeah, low-key a terrible Kitsu from Pac-Man. That's not a nice way to put it. Straight into the wall, not able to fight onto the point whatsoever, and so it's the easiest kite in the world for Bliss Marauders. I wouldn't have expected that out of a Kiriko of that level, so maybe the pressure, someone getting to tier 4 Demons. Thankfully, they have a rather nice release valve when it comes to that EMP. All Selex needs to do is escape, re-engage, and Tier 4 Demons surely can find a flip.
Surely, you would think with what's on the board here, you have a couple of good ultimates. You're matching out on the Terror Surge right now, but that Consider Rush is going to be used early on. You pretty much want to just get out of there if you're T4 Demons. You want to just keep everybody alive. A Signal might not get that luxury he's been taken care of. And now again, Terror Surge is used. It is going to eventually cause the cleanup here as Celtics barely going to get out alive.
I'm not quite sure about that Terror Surge. And a good spear actually from Nepa, long range, gets the pick onto that Kiriko. Apparently improving after the criticism I leveled in the last game, but then decides that Bolon has to go, so does get obliterated. Listen, great fight. You're able to win it relatively down ultimates. Tier 4 Demons, however, do square up with 4 check marks. You kind of need a DPS play to dig yourself out of the financial hole you're in.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be big right now. Echoes, though, ends up just being obliterated on the spot. Terror Surge activated through here. Sun sitting by. It's going to get rid of nobody, but it does cause separation. And now 2 picks on the board. They still need to go over and get the point touch here. Eventually, we'll be able to do so. Bliss Marauders slowly falling over one at a time. T4 Demons should be able to hold out here. They expend 2 ultimates to do so, but at the same time, Bliss Marauders did the exact same thing to try to win that fight.
It feels like when you're in a scenario like that, your best course of action is to force your opponents to use ults, play for as long as possible, keep giving space, try and force them to come to you, and use your ults to respond, to escalate. And instead, they go very, very early, rightly punished for their aggression. Bliss Marauders don't need to overspend. And there's still an EMP staring you down the face, the consideration close on the cards as well.
Yeah, 100%. That EMP could be a big difference maker. Obviously, one way for that perfect time. It comes out, and it's going to get diddly squat. And Echoes, looks like they're going to help close out this second round right here. Trying to find something, but that tidal wave is just going to run directly into Larvin. Does get a cleanse to live momentarily, but unfortunately, Spec, this is going to be the beginning of the end right here. Pikmin does manage to get one on the way out, but it's all temporary. It's just delaying the inevitable, and Bliss Marauders are going to take this to a third and final round after just a little bit more stall.
You don't always see an EMP get that little value, but it has felt more common in recent times. I mean, Selex tries to go for the pop-up, but I believe just flashed and dashed by Icos and attacks, and because of that, instantly they fight turns from something I thought they were basically guaranteed to win to something they ended up losing. Now heading towards Control Center to decide how things play out, and I've got to say, Sombra here I just don't think works the same. The sightlines feel very, very awkward for her. She's going to be on some sightlines a little bit too short, I think, with some awkward 1v1s versus Icos as an example. And I would rather see them play Sim, Genji, Venture, Reaper, anything else your Flex DPS has in the pool. I think so much easier for Selex if they do have their options. We'll see where they go after the TP out.
Yeah,
Sticks.
Yep. I like it. Gonna hold on to that Symmetra as well. It's gonna create a really tough time for Nepo in this situation. Kind of has to play very carefully, not let that Symmetra build up to that tier 30 beam. Once that comes through, I mean, you're just gonna be torn through to shreds in that situation. That's why you're going to see them have to figure out how you want to go about this. And you might see them rotate directly over to the point, but at the time being, they're taking a moment to really decide. And honestly, Spec, that's fine, all things considered. But now, you've lost Echoes early on here, and the fact that you, unfortunately, had you to stand there didn't really have a great option either way, and eventually just get burnt down.
I mean, no Icos in this matchup makes it borderline impossible. The Symmetra means that you're much more weak to side fight in exchange for having a ridiculous amount of frontline damage. You lose out on that side fight, and there's no advantage the Bliss Marauders have bar a double dink from attacks that can realistically let you back in. Obviously, Icos makes a change as well. Reaper out now. Nepu, no armor immediately as soon as he sticks his head through the doorway.
Yeah, rough situation over on that Ramattra now. Gonna have a little bit more of that block slap to work with right now, but attacks getting off to a great start. You get rid of all of that damage you come with that Symmetra, and now Nepu and Co should be able to start moving forward with a little bit more aggression right there, but still, attacks hit the second final blow here, looking for a hat trick. Would have gotten that if it weren't for the cleanse, but it's looking like this fight, I mean, realistically should be an inevitability. You see the commitment there right now as Marvin is able to get away with that Deadeye. Does get taken care of. His attack has gotten rid of 4 in this fight already. And now a Terra Surge will get rid of attacks, will stop the trend. And now with that and that investment, Bliss Marauders, they come out of that with nothing.
That was pretty ridiculous. I thought for sure they were winning that fight. Attacks was getting ridiculous amounts of value from that side angle, right? But the Deadeye pick onto Icos just opens up the map again so much here for Demons. Still able to hold at 70%. We're getting closer and closer to last fight territory. Bliss Marauders might have tried to come back and got nothing for it.
Yeah, you're going to see that double Kasane rush attacks, trying to find something with that Deadeye. Everyone just kind of going to zone out. We will not have a touch, though, so 80% will see the flip come over. So even if Bliss Marauders lose out on this fight, there will be a recontention coming later on. But obviously, you want to try to win this fight right here. And now as Izia is going to invest that tidal wave, going to go in super aggressive, trying to stun out Nepu. But instead, they're going to have to get off this point, give it up, and now attacks is gone. This is the all-or-nothing fight right here, Spec. And unfortunately, with everybody surrounded, it's looking like it might be falling apart in Spec. It is.
10% left to go, and I'm not even sure a touch is possible here. I think it might be all over, but they're crying here for Bliss Marauders. What a great performance, maps 1 and 2, but here on the sub point 3 on Control Center, they kind of got obliterated. Therefore, Demons able to take map 1 in our elimination series and get a leg up on their opposition.
Yeah, I mean, it was the initial struggle of trying to go in on that Symmetra, and eventually they managed to take over the point, but they don't actually win that fight, all things considered. They simply cause the temporary flip, and you see the investment of that wall from the Symmetra. They go all in on it, and eventually the separation is just enough to get the job done. But for them, hey, exactly how you want to go about that. Obviously, there's a couple of low points. You look back at that night market, not the cleanest thing in the world, but you take that first map, you get the momentum in your hands, get a little bit of that cushion, and as long as they can keep doing what they have been doing, managing their aggression, honestly, doing a good job of managing a lot of the ultimates as well, save for, Terra Surges, because neither teams particularly know how to use them quite yet, but regardless, they've done a good job out the gate here.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing from Bliss Marauders is the DPS are super strong, but I think they do feel pressured to make up for any time they're behind, right? They feel like they have to be the hero. And that, I think, sometimes works out really well when they get, crazy value in a fight, but it's a heavy risk factor as well, where I think a lot of the time we are seeing attacks and Icos go down earlier than they realistically should, because they have that pressure on the back to take risks, to go for these plays. And it's something I would like to see reined in a little bit, because if they do that, I think they really could have taken this Lijiang over tier for Demons. That being said, now they've got first ban and map pick, and we'll see if it works a little bit better for them, which I think you do have some great options for. You want to ban like a Symmetra, for example, makes it a lot easier if you want to play something brawlier, and a Rita ban if you do want to head more towards that. Ramattra could be high value. You have a lot of options here, and I do think they might even be tipped to have the lead heading into map number 2.
Yeah, honestly, having that ability to kind of trend the next map right here can kind of cause momentum. I mean, the amount of times where we've watched a series, whether it is in CGL, Overwatch, I go to BCS, where a team wins control and then gets just shabam the next 3 maps afterwards, that has happened more times than I can count. I don't have enough fingers for that, ladies and gentlemen. But being able to trend that way also means you're able to go literally any way you want. The map pool, it is wide open. If you wanted to put something back into their hands, your DPS a little bit, open up the doors, there are plenty of maps, especially down the escort hybrid route, that can offer that for you. We'll see what the situation is going to be here, as I have a good old... well, actually, I don't have any information yet. Well, I mean, we just have to guess at this point. I mean, Spec, in this situation right here, after a map like that, what would you reasonably want to do if you're Bliss Marauders?
Those Bliss Marauders, ban Ori and go to a flat ground map, probably, where you can just take a frontline trade with the Ram. It seemed to be more what was the speed of your own tank. and your opponents really want to stick that all the time. So that's probably what I would look at first. I'd be worried about leaving Tracer undefended, but you make that sacrifice. You have the Lucio in to rotate you around the map a little bit more. I really do imagine that would be your best protocol. Like I said, something like a Suravasa maybe would work. New Junk City, I think, would be perfect for that style of play.
I definitely agree with that right there. I think it'd be a good route to go down. That Orisa was causing a fair amount of troubles there for Bliss Marauders. I don't think it was either the biggest tank gap in the world either, just from what I witnessed with my own eyes. But still, I think there was a lot that you were getting away with in that situation. That, hey, just shut it down, try to bring it to something else, and if it works, you have something to go with for the rest of the series here. I could also see them potentially trying to take this somewhere where perhaps dive/poke is going to become more of a factor, open up the door for attacks to kind of actually have those hero moments that they did have during some of those fights, but obviously a lot of these closing areas, quick fights, doesn't always offer that. You go to something like a Circle Royale, like a Gibraltar, where things are more opened up, it's a little more DPS dependent in those situations, it could open up the door a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it is very DPS dependent, but it also does mean that map is, in my opinion, somewhat of a gamble. You can't always rely so much on your big macro plays if you just kind of hope that, especially when you take it like the Widow, Soj, just shoot them in the head side of play. If they just don't do that, well, you're kind of left with the rest of your team, you know, stuck with their hands, just kind of twiddling their thumbs, right? It doesn't achieve all that much. So it's probably not my favorite. I do believe we heard what that map was, and I'm gonna check in. Yeah, map's going to be Atlas, which I think is a reasonable choice, but I would be a little bit worried about losing on like a hard side fight.
Yeah, because this is one, I think probably out of the three flashpoints that we have, I think this is really the most chaotic of the three as well. Not just the fact that it's quote-unquote newer at this point, I don't think that's even fair to say, but there are a lot more opportunities to have these fights that don't take place directly on the points. Yeah, exactly. That is the phrasing. Thank you, Spectron. You make me sound just slightly smarter here in the booth. But I don't mind it, all things considered. And from what we were alluding to earlier, it wouldn't surprise me if they double down here, get rid of that Orisa, try to force something else in that tech department.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that makes Atlas feel so chaotic is how many like crevices it has across the map. So many like spots where it's reasonable to stand and reasonable your opponents would be there too. So you get some very strange 1v1s sometimes. I really enjoy it. I think it's one of the best flashpoint maps in the game, and I play it over at Suravasa a good amount of the time, actually. I don't know. Big up the map design team for that one. Obviously, bans through Tifo Demons previously went towards a Tracer as their ban. No more is that going to be an option. Yeah, not quite sure where they want to head towards here.
Yeah, I mean, they're picking first, so they could also just go protect the Orisa and get rid of like something like Ramatra. But no, it's going to be that Soj instead taken out. So again, could be a protection of sorts as well. But to be fair, Soj, like it alluded to earlier, still has a lot of value.
Yeah, I mean, Soj is always strong. I mean, if you're confident in attacks on the Cassidy, well, I mean, because that's the thing. Attacks was only on the Cassidy the entire time, so banning out the Soj implies you want him to stay on it. I think do think he was outvaluing his counterpart, so I'm not quite sure about that one. Diva ban, not something we've seen previously. Is she strong on this map? I guess. Right, recently buffed with the booster perk change, but I don't think she's game breaking. These are a very strange set of bans, in my opinion.
It is a little bit strange because I don't think this necessarily stops if T4 Demons wants to go and still try to make the Symmetra style work here. I don't think it's impossible, and I think especially going into a Diva where you can't frontline that the same way that you can if you're an Orisa or Mashra or whatever have you made, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So if they decide to go down that route, it could be a bit of a struggle, but at the same time, maybe this is Bliss Marauders taking a little more long-term, because obviously an Orisa Symmetra ban will be nice right now, but when we get into more critical situations, it's like, hey, maybe we need that before we get to that map 3, map 4, or be more critical, but at the same time, Spec, this is Flashpoint. If you're gonna see that Orisa come out, this is one of the most likely scenarios.
I mean, Orisa's really good at just staying alive, right? That's obviously what she's here for. You've got many defensive cooldowns, a good amount of HP, and so it means that when you're exposed to different, avenues of pressure, you have tools to respond to most of them. Be it with a spear, a spear spin, just a well-timed gold. You've got these options, right? And so I don't know. Like I said, I'm very much not sure about either of these bans. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see what teams play this map and what they play in the future maps to figure out exactly what either side had in mind for us. I'm really worried about attacks in that Cassia again.
I am a little bit as well, and it's going to come right back at Echoes, though. Is going to go over back to that Tracer. Remember, was banned out on that first map, so it could prove the difference, as Larva and Alvin is going to match it at the same time, so we'll have a little bit more of that Tracer 1v1 action. It's going to take Larvin out of that action for the most part as well, having to worry about that one-on-one, but GG Celtics could get away with a lot on this Reaper.
So a lot of high damage. Double flex, though, does mean you can't play any sort of poke. Tearful Demons need to look for a hit and find one fast, else Bliss Marauders will be winning out an extended fight, essentially just by dint of their composition.
Yeah, 100%. But hey, attack gets strung right out the gate here, and now Echoes doesn't have to worry about that 1v1 situation. Is able to help be aggressive with the squad right here. Going to walk directly over into Signal. Quest has found quite a bit of cooldowns just to hang alive, but unfortunately, with all that being expended, the rest of the team is going to collapse right from underneath them. Nepo is going to live, and that is a very successful first fight for Bliss Marauders, keeping everybody alive in that one.
Indeed it is. Like I mentioned, long fight always going to work out for Bliss Marauders. That being said, Aiko's late death, not what you love to see. And so if I'm attacked, I need to find a way to trade it back, or at least extricate myself from that scenario as fast as humanly possible. RK, such a strange death to give over. Now you're only 3 trying to hold off the blue hordes.
Yeah, and there's essentially nothing you can do left at this point right here. You're down in that 5v3 situation. If I'm T4 Demons, I'm trying to go aggressive on this takeover at this point. If you're Bliss Marauders, it's not a thing you can do about it. They have to surrender the point here, and honestly, needed to get out of dodge.
I mean, you'll be able to recontest relatively quickly. At least Pac-Man, low HP, but we'll be able to make it out. Icos, again, an early death, not from the Tracer so far.
Yeah, not the greatest thing in the world here. Have to now forcibly take that reset, let things go. Still trying to find somebody. I mean, Pac-Man and GG Select do get a little bit low, and now Larvan has a pulse bomb ready to go. There is a cleanse at the ready, though, so obviously don't want to use it in that situation. Hey, don't really have to either. You're just cleaning up house regardless of whether you needed it or not. So now Bliss Marauders, I mean, bright side to them, don't use any ultimates in that exchange here, and this next fight could be a big ult dump.
Expect so, right? I mean, we've had these teams fight some pretty long fights, pretty short fights. We've had it point seesawing back and forth as well, so we have had the time for both sides to actually charge up a bank of sorts. Tifo Demons, though, currently the ones in control of the point. They're the ones with space to give up, and therefore the ones with the advantage in this fight. Basically all checkmarks online, but the lead on the beat for Izia might be the difference maker.
Yeah, Center Rush activated. You're going to see Terra Surge directly afterwards from Nepo. It's going to separate some people for the most part, but Death Loss on that hits nothing but air, unfortunately. As you see Bliss Marauder slowly taking this one over. It will cause the flip over 99% for T4 Demons, but the most critical thing at the end of the day, both teams end up having that, oh my goodness, have the ultimate ready sitting by on the Lucio. That beat drop still very powerful.
Indeed, such a strong ultimate, but it helps if you just hit every shot. It seemed like you get the early Tracer duel, and then in the 5v4, going about even for ults, you do just have a straight-up advantage here. Having again, now the defensive hold for Bliss Marauders means they can play defensively with their beat, try and play second, as long as nobody gets early picked.
Yeah, and hey, gotta get that touch over on the point. Does get activated at the last second right here. Beat gonna be activated from both sides, but unfortunately attacks is not kept up in time. Okay, missing out by just a half a second right there. Point can flip over to T4 Demons, and now there's nothing left to really throw on the point except your bodies. As Nepo just has to throw their body on, hope that picks start to come through one after another. But the moment that Nepo goes down, I think the ability to hold on to this does, as well as T4 Demons will eventually take this one away. But again, 100 to 99 to get things started.
Incredibly competitive between these two teams, but it does feel, at least so far, like it is almost always Tearful Demons, the ones who are more capable in these high-octane scenarios. They are the one who is getting the better of these knife's edge moments. And that may, well, continue to be the case. As Bliss Marauders and Tearful Demons both just try and play for their Terra Surges here. I've got to say, this is a lot easier with choke control, so I think the Demons still the ones with an advantage here.
I think 100% as well. Bliss Marauders, Rush and right now are kind of just getting bullied out one after another, but Pac-Man ends up going down. We've seen a lot of what this DPS line from Marauders has been able to accomplish around these fights, but the problem is, even on the back of that initial pick, they're not getting anywhere in the situation. T4 Demons are going to take over the point to get things started. Nepo is going to die super late as well as Attack, and RK just got to run for the hills.
I feel like most Marauders are just taking a lot of really weird fight locations. When they have this Cassie, they should be looking for something slightly more long range, but it feels like they're just kind of walking frontline into a Reaper and obviously having a pretty rough time of things. Doing it exactly here again, trying to take the high ground, and it doesn't work out so well for them once more.
I mean, yeah, they're definitely going for it. They're trying to make it happen. Unfortunately, it just really isn't. And now Nepu does get rid of 2. So Bliss Marauders are eventually going to get their way back into this. It does mean they have to expend that Kitsune Rush. It does work out, though. But now T4 Demons, I mean, just have a litany of ultimates on this next fight.
So much firepower for especially T4 Demons. Bliss Marauders can go even, more or less, but it's simply not the same. Pulse miss as well. Attacks Torbjorn. It's hard to play turret, I'll give you that. So you might find a certain amount of value here, but you need to be able to play Torb if you want to play Torb, which sounds counterintuitive, but trust me, it's true.
Yeah, 100%. We'll see how well it works out as RK just goes down early. No beat going to be available. And now the question is whether or not you have to use much ults if you are T4 Demons right here. Obviously, you might have to go with the Kitsune Rush just to kind of clear bodies off of this point. You're going to have all 5 around the corner. Pulse Bomb hit attacks perfectly. Terra Surge going to be activated, only going to get rid of 1, and now going to pull in multiple bodies, trying to get rid of RK. Not going to happen as we're trading back and forth. 75+% on the board here, as the Marauders are going to go with the aggression. The beat has been used, and remember, both sports for T4 Demons are out of the fight, having to make their way back.
Oh, banished.
Yeah, I would say that beat might have been more than a temporary gain, as T4 Demons will take back over the point here and should be able to stabilize.
It seems so. It's still pretty chaotic. Attacks overloaded down under, but eventually taken down by a melee from Signal. T4 Demons, again walking back in, but they're still not trading out well.
They're not, and now you're just committed in this situation. There's nothing you can do. You can't really get out. You can try, but you need to have somebody recommit, and it's going to have to be Echoes. But Echoes just gets silenced on the spot, and now nobody can realistically get there. It's going to be 2-0, and Marauders need to just run for the hills, try to take another reset.
It's not looking great at all right now for the Marauders. Their first pick, their first ban, and they're kind of getting flattened. Obviously, first pick was okay for them, but especially they're on second. Very few things went in their favor. They're heading towards another chance here, and it is their last one. If they want to be competitive here in Atlas, they need to take this. This Kitsune Rush has to find value.
Absolutely has to. You need to get this going right here and now. It's going to be the double Kitsune Rush fight. Obviously, Pulse Bomb is at the ready right now for Echoes. Not going to be expended quite yet here as Kill the Hog, I believe, yeah, did get that off just in time. Or actually, see, Peckman got that off just in time. The trade started to go back and forth a little bit, but Kill the Hog already got rid of 2. Echo's going to be able to help with a little bit more of that cleanup. Just a stall game here at this point for T4 Demons. Not going to get rid of anybody else. Larvin with a little bit more stall will die on the point. So Bliss Marauders going to get off to a good start here. Manage to get the other rush out as well. Oh, no.
Yeah, it's a... Oh, yeah. I thought we were lining up for a Pulse Bomb, and then I realized it's just on a reset. Oh, we're safe for now. I mean, best case scenario here is surely going to be a Cleanse Force. You don't even get that. You're okay about this if you're Tier 4 Demons. Decent cooldown trade, and you're making decent space.
Yeah, you're just kind of delivering pressure to this backline right now. Make sure Pikmin's distracted as possible. Try to get that Cleanse out, as you said. Everybody in a weird area, throw it in there. Unfortunately, Cleanse is going to be at the ready for Pikmin. Manages to stop from finding any value here, and the point slowly going to be taken away here. Bliss Marauders falling apart one by one. Kill the Hog, last one standing. 55% going to be the name of the game here as T4 Demons will take over. Get the team wipe, as all they've got sitting by right now is the Turbolt and RK are on the corner.
Yeah, I don't know how you're supposed to put a retake together with just this. It's going to get very tricky. Probably slow play till you get beat, walking with Torbolt, try and force theirs, then go for a late beat, but it's a risky gambit, one that's very inconsistent. Recall Force early is very nice, but all that's going to get you is an angle.
Yeah, unfortunately so, but now, I mean, Izuya right around the corner from this beat as well. Attacks is currently just playing parkour by the looks of it. Gets taken out from a little high ground right there as beat now going to be expanded pretty late into that one right there. In fact, as Izuya's going to kind of just invest here, we're going to be at 70+% here, and I mean, Echoes is the only one that has even a modicum of a chance to touch here.
Yeah, so you have to try and stay alive. You have to be able to get overtime started. Any late pick here is going to be essentially Atlas going in favor of Tier 4 Demons. Icos doesn't check the corner on a one clip. Absolutely brutal. Now what? You have to scramble.
I don't even think the scramble is going to get them there. They could try, but it's not going to happen. T4 Demons, they make an example out of that Atlas win 3-0. It definitely had its close points, but whenever T4 ended up kind of locking down this point, they rarely gave it up. If they gave it away for like 10-15%, they would focus on winning the fight rather than, 15%, whatever. We can beat you in this fight anyway, we just take it back. That's what kept happening time after time after time. It was a bit closer at the beginning, but again, they latch on to this point and then they never let it go. They never even let a fight get to the point after that.
I don't know. I think they were taking much better fight locations was one thing. I think they recognized the win condition of their comp and played towards it fantastically. The Ori Tracer Reaper isn't played all the time, but when you do, you have to realize that you have a decent amount of frontline and a decent amount of angle mark. You have to realize, that obviously your range damage is very low, so when you're into the Cassidy, you just run at the enemy Orisa, because you will be able to out-damage them before the Cassidy is able to find the value that he normally would in an extended fight, right? And if I'm Bliss Marauders, I should be thinking, I need to use my Lucio to pull, to take super long sight lines to try and extend the length of these fights. They weren't doing that, and they were getting mangled because of it. I know we talked about the bans before, but I don't see what a Diva or a Sojourn would have done here to make things different. I do feel like it has an outdraft for Tier 4 Demons. But if I'm Bliss Marauders, I'm trying to think about what my picks are going to be for map 3. Unfortunately, I'm drawing something of a blank.
Yeah, it's kind of rough here because you could go and take this over to something, like a push, like a hybrid that kind of falls under the route of that brawl, and you have to choose either get rid of the Orisa or get rid of the Symmetra. I think either way, you still have to deal with the threat of the other. I think they would still throw that one out there. So now, maybe it's a scenario where, hey, maybe we have to full commit this to a dive, a situation where neither of these heroes have inherent value, and try to force it a different way, because we haven't inherently seen any of the dive here today thus far, so it's a potential option. But hey, expect the bright side is Bliss Marauders will get an extra few minutes to think this through, as we'll be going over to our half-time break. So when we come back, we have the potential conclusion of this EU Open matchup here in the playoffs. What will happen? You'll find out after this break. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from our halftime break here in this EU Open Division matchup here in the CGL playoffs. And so far, it has been a T4 Demons kind of day, already up 2-0 in this elimination matchup. Bliss Marauders, T6, only one map away potentially from being knocked out of the playoffs here. And we have seen these moments of brilliance from the squad, but the key right now is consistency with this squad, winning those back-to-back fights, being able to come away with these big fights that have come down to the wire. And more often than not, way more often than not, they've been losing them out just by a hair.
Yeah, maybe slightly more than that, depending on the moment. As you can see around us, the next map going to be Gibraltar. And considering what we've seen so far, Hunter, considering it's been exclusively Arisa, essentially, it's very curious that we're going to an entirely different map. Fully understand, if I am Bliss Marauders, you're facing elimination from the CGL Open tier. You want to try and throw a curveball. You want to try and change up the game plan, because evidently whatever you had heading into this series, it's not working. This is that. It does function as that, but will it be enough is my primary question. And B, does it really suit what you've been good at? Remember, we've been talking about the DPS maybe overperforming. Do you have an opportunity for that necessarily on Watchpoint Gibraltar? Or is it more of a map where it comes down to all of your individuals being able to step up at the exact same time to actually find dive value?
I mean, we'll see which is going to be the case in the situation. I think the DPS stepping up, obviously, I mean, can never really hurt in a situation like this, especially when you go towards more of that dive poke route where it tends to kind of be more or stand out more, I guess, in the situations. But either way, bans here, Bliss Marauders, obviously a recent match likely off the table, so maybe this could be down the route of protection instead. And they're going to go with the Symmetra here and now, which, to be fair, I mean, I guess, like, first and third point, there are Symmetra shenanigans possible. We see people make those swaps on third point, so, but I don't know if I would have gotten rid of it here as opposed to last map.
If you sim ban here, low-key, you weird as hell. Sim is playable here if you really want to play sim. You know, if you're married to the idea, you can, I guess. But you don't have to. Batman as well, I think it's more reasonable. He's an annoying hero to deal with at long range. Hurts brawlier comps. I think that ban came first as well, I believe. Then it functions as an break protect as well, so you do kind of force something a bit more standard in theory. Obviously, every tank left in the lobby though, and so D.Va, Winston, Wall has all entirely possible right now, all entirely playable. So it is purely what each side would prefer to play. Winston though in his relatively strong place right now, enough though to oust the D.Va. Only time shall tell.
Yeah, we'll see what the case is going to be as we're getting ready to get into this Gibraltar. Remember, it could be the last map of the season for Bliss Marauders T6, but hey, it's not over until it's over. You still got a chance here to make this happen, put those first two maps behind you, try to gear up here and get something started here on Gibraltar. But you already see right now that Tracer jumping around. Larvin got away with a fair amount on that previous map. Going to stick with it here. A signal will bring out that D.Va that previously was banned in that last map.
Yeah, and so we'll be seeing it come out now. Obviously, the D.Va v Winston matchup is pretty awkward in at least the 1v1. Nepo will have some much stronger hits if you can get scaled for them. But if you find yourself running in signals time and time again, you'll be finding yourself in the spawn room time and time again. And so managing these fight phases, managing these hits is going to be incredibly important here. You'll also note the difference in the Soj versus the Freya. Soj, more pick potential, a little bit more survivable, a bit more consistent. Whereas the Freya is great at front-loading damage, again, into the tank. And so this is a comp designed to bully Nepo. See how he handles the pressure.
Yeah, we'll have to do your best, play a little bit safer. You still have the ability to have a little bit of follow-up with Echoes, but honestly, this isn't going to be a traditional Zybe situation where you go in, there's 2 or 3 people directly behind you ready to annihilate one person. It's not going to go that simply. If you're Echoes, you just got to hang around on this point here, let it kind of just keep moving forward, because the only person that can reasonably contest is, I mean, actually, there's a lot of people that can contest that point at any given moment.
There is, but there's only one person who really should. That should be the Tracers. They should be getting packs from their Briggs. Dive from Nepo forces high ground for a second, but he's had to spend his bubble for it, and I'm just not quite sure that's worth.
Yeah. And Celtics right now, by the way, already online to game this first ult going 80% in counting. Could be a rough situation, but Nepo, you kind of just see he's kind of just jumping up. gets drained away, and then Silva has to drop back off. And to be fair, eventually you need to get away with some receipts here, as now you're going to have a bolo shot available. You need to find the opportunity here as, again, Nepu went super deep.
They peel him out, and a great nade actually almost punishes Signal, who is forced to back out. Great kill as well onto Izuya means that Blitz Marauders finally got some real progress finally. However, Tier 4 Demons will back out. They'll be able to play for their respawns, and we'll have a full recontest as 5 with a boulder shot can maybe find value.
Yeah, and Nano is directly around the corner as well here, but Nano might not be all that necessary. 2 already shut down here, and for Bliss Marauders, they should be able to move forward and take this one away. A little bit more stall coming through here from Signal. Eventually will be taken out. No person left standing, as eventually late pick on to Pac-Man, as well as Larvin. Yeah, will eventually take the respawn. Just barely got it in time. I
think half asleep there, walked out of spawn just to make a second before it maybe triggered. All's well that ends well, however. You get the old spawn, and you're straight back in. Bliss Marauders, every ultimate, your opponent's essentially the same. You have a small lead, technically, but I'm not quite sure it's enough to decide the fight. Maybe the Nano Winston will, which is still one of the most powerful combos in the game.
It is, and now super low. Has to go one way or the other. It will be the Nano. Gonna cause some chaos over in this room. It has to be a little bit careful. Can still get drained away, and now it's gonna be the double investment here for Bliss Marauders to turn this fight around. It's just gonna really cause them to get a little bit more progression. You would love to get this room if you're Nepu, but they are pretty much boxing you out the entire time, so it's not gonna do a lot in the grand scheme of things, especially with Nepu going down on that progress, at least for the moment. Should stop here for Bliss Marauders, but Bomb does get forced out of Signal on the way out.
I mean, I just feel like we've nanoed at exactly the wrong time, where there's nothing that Nepu can realistically get on. I mean, even when you are nano diving, you should still have follow-up there. Whereas Icos on the Tracer, where's a nade from RK? It wasn't enough, in my opinion. That's why Tier 4 Demons, though they went 2 for 2 in terms of the ult marks, used some significantly less impactful ones to win out the fight.
Yeah, 100%. Kill the Hog, though. Fantastic to get things started away. Bliss Marauders should be able to pull this one around. You go in, knowing you're going to go down, you get that pick over on Izuya, and now if you're Nepu, you need to try to stay alive. Signal going to go deep here, try to take care of business in that back line, but health packs, minis galore. Ascendo will be taken care of, and now you got to throw your bodies on here, but I think at this point, I mean, Selleck is going to be given the Nano to go in on this point right here. Everyone's going to play a little bit safe. Solo follow directly to basic control, who already has their ult at the ready. Nepu now just needs to be able to survive, get heals a little bit here, hanging up on the high ground. Bliss Marauders, though, excellent opportunity as Signal now over on that ball. It's only going to be temporarily, as point will flip over 4 minutes on the board here for Bliss Marauders.
Nano Ebola to force rally? That's pretty disastrous. I have no idea what I nano there, to be honest. Surely you're swapping. Especially with the change over to the Orisa and to the Soj. I would imagine you would want something like a Kiri on your backline. A Wu Yang perhaps. No, they are staying. Oh, this is going to be an uphill battle for sure. It's Bliss Marauders on with the momentum. They've got a Nano OC if they so wish, and especially with the overclock perk one-shotting to the body, that is a terrifying prospect.
100% it is, and now Kill the Hog in pretty excellent position, all things considered. Larvin still has a pulse pump sitting by. Obviously, no cleanse ability is available, and that's a double DPS ultimate at the same time by Bliss Marauders. Echoes is able to get rid of Larvin right here. Everybody forced into a really awkward situation. Kill the Hog needs to find somebody with these shots, eventually being forced back in, although pretty much walks into the fire and flames, gets deleted. Now everybody needs to run for the hills, try to get everybody out alive. They will, but a reconnection is badly needed.
Oh, Kill the Hog does go down. You do have a chance here. You've got the first thread. Now you have to unravel the whole knot.
Yeah, Nepu needs to live long enough to potentially get this Primal Rage online, but now you see the investment here. Nepu realized, hey, this fight's done. It's cooked. Pulse Bomb's thrown out. And that is almost everything used by T4 Demons as well. And now they're committed to the Mauga.
Yeah, you do have a Nano boost on the horizon. That'll be able to at least mean you can go mano a mano with Nepu's Primal Rage. Very weird Nano timing there from RK, I have to say. I mean, you see the OC come through, no Nano boost, and right as it's ending, it gets committed. I've seen that on Winston to extend the pressure cycle. Less so with a Sojourn, who just can't find the same amounts of value in the neutral. So, very strange decision. May well have cost Bliss Marauders.
Yeah, Signal's in a really awkward situation. No cooldown sitting by, is in the middle of nowhere, is given the Nano, and this is every tank player's worst nightmare as Nepu, who's in the full primal form, pretty much gets solo deleted. In that exchange now, without the tank, everything should realistically begin to fall apart here. Signal has cooldowns up the wazoo. Eventually going to be hit with that rally. Needs to try to run for the hills, get a little bit of carrying time. Unfortunately, it's not quite there, and it's down to the back of Control and Kill the Hog to try to stabilize things here. Unfortunately, even though Kill the Hog is getting pick after pick, it's not going to be enough.
Again, it goes incredibly close, but the fact that these fights are pretty messy means that Bliss Marauders the ones behind. Another OC from Kill the Hog. See what this one finds.
Yeah, it needs to be something here in the situation. Kill the Hog does manage to get rid of Larvin, though. Immediately revenge the other way. Nepu gonna have to go for the full dive right here. Does get rid of Select. Might die in their own right, though. Needs to wait for that right moment to get out of there. But Nepu's gotten rid of a lot, and right now it's a cage fight for one. As all you got to do right here is you just kind of have to hide away. Wait for your opportunity, but now they're all there. They're going to push in together. Signal needs to go in and try to find something here. Still has great cooldowns at the expenger. Is able to stall long enough for most people to get back into the fight, but the DPS already gone from T4 Demons. And now Signal, no care remaining. Bliss Marauders will be able to cap out the point. 109 all on the board, and considering how those first two maps went, this right here is a godsend.
It's so much better for them. Feels like having Kill the Hog on the hit scan is one of the things that makes it so much easier. Like, when you can actually just sit back, find these easy Soge picks. Because some of these angles we're seeing from Kill the Hog are pretty egregiously risky, but they're always played to perfection, right? I mean, I think back to when they're on second point, they're attacking Spaceship, and we see Kill the Hog slide up to high ground, drop a disruptive shot into the core of the enemy team, and just trade out, even though you end up falling. It's enough disruption to allow Nepu, allow Icos a way in, and a couple, final blows of their own. Very well played, I have to say, but of course, it's not over yet. The map's not went out for Bliss Marauders yet. They were going to have to hold off their celebrations until they've completed it. And with 1 minute and 10 on the time bank, it might well feel more like that way, especially for the first time in a while. You've had this much momentum on your side, right? But Tier 4 Demons, we've seen them clutch out some pretty ridiculous scenarios themselves. And on the attack, I do think the Divas maybe even a little bit better, forcing the cart much easier than it is when you're defending it. And Nepu gonna really struggle to find strong dive targets.
Yeah, it's going to be a little difficult here. The name of the game, realistically, is going to be survival more than anything else right here, stabilizing that high ground. It is definitely going to be difficult to deal with, though. I mean, it's in this situation, you really do have to just focus on your own survivability. Don't put yourself in a situation where you're going to be caught out. But either way, things are going to get started. Larvin heading over to the point, going to get that slowly rolling away. I imagine Echoes won't wait all that long to start giving some level of contention. As for the time being, Bliss Marauders just trying to hold on to this high ground.
Indeed. So far, they're leaving Larvin to contest cart for as long as it's humanely possible. Very aggro positioning from the Brig, and checked, murdered by Icos. A bit of a feed from Izuya.
Yeah, now Peckman, no backup immediately, but the problem is, this progress is still being made on this card. You got an excellent pick, but now this thing is already almost half or more than halfway under that underpass right now, as eventually contention being taken over on the point. Kill the Hog, trying to find a little bit of progress on the Signal, who's going to go and help out, but Larvin ends up getting the W in that one, and that means that car is going to just slowly start ticking forward here momentarily.
Indeed it is. See how Bliss Marauders are capable of backing relatively safely. They need to not give over a pick, but Kill the Hog. It's maybe a little bit too aggro. Railgun necessary to ward off the Tracer. If it misses, this might just be a dead Soge.
Yeah, and it's going to go around and try to find the pick here. Somehow misses out on that one. That is unfortunate, I think. Kill the Hog,
Why did you do that?
Yeah, I don't know. It was a choice of all time, 100%. Signal, though, is going to go out, get a little bit of care of Bliss Marauders. Obviously, would love to be able to kind of restabilize here, but this is becoming a bit of an impossibility right now. Nepu has full health coming around the corner, but doesn't have much to back them up here as Touch doesn't even come through, gets booped away.
Whipped. Yeah, fantastic there from Control. Icos, I mean, perfectly happy. Pass that from Izuya, sorry, who makes up for their feed from previously. And I'm really confused why Kill the Hog would ever try and slide into a Tracer. You have no escape cooldown. If you miss a shot, you're just dead. And that's exactly what happens. Speaking of, Manifest again. Pulse a little bit lackluster, but the Pulse pistols, in fact, not there. Great melee, as well as the left click to allow that release of pressure. But Tier 4 Demons still yet to find their legs out from under them. They're going to need a stabilizing fight, and it's by no means comfortable for them.
100% here. Primal Rage is activated here from Nepu. Gonna try to find a little something, and now everything's being thrown into this fight to try to stabilize. Control will be able to hang on in there. Selec has been taken care of. That cart has been slowly been making progress throughout this fight, though. So even if I lose this, if I'm T4 Demons, I'm not the maddest in the world, especially they get Echoes out of the fight as well. Signal being given the nano. Now Nepu has to be extremely careful as to where they go. Disruption into this backline. And right now, everything is coming up. T4 Demons. This card is nearly at the second checkpoint already.
And they're going to have a gargantuan time. Like, you have a recontest here from Blitz Marauders. It is an ill-advised one. Nepu tries it, and I just gets flattened once more. That's the card rolling in, essentially, right now. The time bank, over 5 minutes. Blitz Marauders must have been feeling comfortable when they completed this map, but the shoe's most definitely on the other foot now.
Yeah, this is insane. I mean, this could be a big... We could be looking at, like, a 3-minute cap here, potentially.
Straight up.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, T4 Demons, you only have the bomb right now. Obviously, you still have Kill the Hog, who has been popping off consistently throughout this map right here. Control being kept alive, but unfortunately, Echoes is down early. And now, I mean, Larvin Elman doesn't have any real big congestion to have to deal with now in the 1v1 situation, so they're just going to be able to keep this cart rolling.
Very aggro in attempting to check signal. It doesn't quite work out, but the OC take care of the Tracer. Surely this is going to allow the stop necessary.
Definitely should right here. Health pack right around the corner. Signal is simply going to run for it. That is a deep dive from Nepo right there. Will be able to survive, though. Everyone's just going to focus on getting out, getting the theft back, and should be able to re-engage rather quickly.
Okay, that was probably your largest tool out. However, as the Winston gets cleared, as long as Celix is chill, then T4 Demons will be fine. I was about to say they can nano their way in, but with, again, no Alvin, you might as well just bide your time because you've got so bloody much of it.
Yeah, but Signal might be forced to bomb here. Is running out of everything. Gonna have to. And yeah, is gonna immediately bomb just to restabilize. Everybody gonna get out of dodge. Respect it. It's out. You don't have to deal with it anymore. But now you have to deal with double support ultimates. You still have a copy right around the corner. If I'm copying, I might be going directly onto the Winston here. Going into this back line is pretty much gonna get deleted almost instantaneously. Yeah, will do so. Doesn't get a whole lot out of it, but Nano does get expended over on to kill the Hog. And in fact, that's both support ultimates being used here by Blitz Marauders. And now they don't have much around the corner, but they might not need to have anything as Kill the Hog. Nice pick onto Larvin as make it a second one. Blitz Marauders will be able to stabilize.
Feels like anytime they need a hero, it has been Kill the Hog. Sleep onto Nepu. Maybe there's an opportunity to punish there, but it doesn't seem to materialize. And force all the way back to spawn T4 Demons have to regroup with the least map control humanely possible. Sedex has decided that the Echo's no bueno anymore. Back onto that Cassidy. Does give you a little bit more tank pressure from range, a little bit more consistency. And as well, obviously effective at checking Icos. Nano's only available for Peckman. T4 Demons might just throw it onto Signal and see what they can find.
Yeah, I could definitely see it going down that direction, but now Primal has been thrown in here a little aggressively. Kill the Hog. Again, gets another one with this overclock. Has been so consistent. I know we'll say it over and over again, but unfortunately, Celik in a pretty unfortunate position there will be taken away. Now this time bank has been cut in half, but now we're going to see this ult economy start to lean towards T4 Demons in this next fight or two.
I mean, the thing about rotating powerful ults is that whilst it does buy you, a couple fights, eventually you run out of ults to spend. It's kind of the point where they're at where they have to hope to Kill the Hog and just find another pick straight in the neutral with a dry railgun because you have no ults to trade. Into Nano, Deadeye, Bomb. Can you really match up to that firepower?
Yeah, and then Nano's going to go in big aggro. RK pretty much deleted on the spot, and now you have to run for the hills. If you are Kill the Hog,
so
you're being deleted. It is, and now you need to get inside and get ready to touch one more time. Bomb does have to get expended, and there is plenty of time for a recontestation.
There will be time. However, it will only be the one recontest, and with the air denial tool of that Deadeye, it's an uphill battle, most definitely. So close, only a meter left to go already.
Oh my god. And they can't make it back.
Yeah.
They literally get knocked. Nepu goes too far, gets boosted off, and Echoes is about a second too late to get there. That is... I honestly, I think that is a very holdable situation for Marauders. You have the pulse bomb. You had your supports coming right around the corner to keep Nepu up. Who knows how that fight could have gone down, but man, you got to be kicking yourself just a little bit.
I'm not going to go so far as to say I think it was very holdable. However, I also think that you would have really rather just had a chance to throw your bodies onto there because that would have got the extra 30 seconds or so of a lead that T4 Demons have probably off the bank. And now, on a map you started playing well on, and you are, behind by a couple of seconds still, it doesn't make those difference in practical terms. Mentally, it's a world of it. And T4 Demons, it seems perfectly happy to stick on that Cassie now. I'm not feeling that the Echo is worth it anymore. Obviously, also their chance to defend first as well.
Mm-hmm.
And having the long sightline control, they decided a little bit more impactful than having some extra tank pressure an extra little bit of dive threat to augment Signal when they do go in for these nano boosts. I think the other thing to mention with overtime as well is perks, right? And D.Va having such strong ones compared to even a Winston is a definite issue for Bliss Marauders, one they're going to have to deal with in just a minute, 9 seconds.
Yeah, not the most time in the world, but you remember both these teams capped that first point very quickly. It's all about duplicating that initial success, and for the time being, nobody making any swaps. They figured, hey, if this is going to happen, this is going to be the comp that does it for us, and this is going to be big on Echoes as well to get that cart moving, you know, like he did previously. But to be fair, Larvin did a really good job preventing that previously.
Bubble falls super early. They're just trying to get the cart as far as they humanely can, but they're having to spend a lot of resources for it. Tier 4 Demons, though, don't want to drop. They're just going to keep sitting up here and wait for the perfect opportunity to go for a hit.
Yeah, he's going to dive in, but, I mean, Nepu literally gets thrown into the fire and flames. I mean, not a whole lot you can do to support your tank there. Kill the Hug, though. Does manage to even up. Izia has been taken care of. You're going to see a little bit of progression being taken away here from Echoes, as, unfortunately, your supports fall over, but they should be able to come back in time as long as Echo stays alive.
Signal lost mech. This is going to be really awkward for both sides, realistically. These kills are super late. Icos needs to live, but has no recall. Surely goes down to the enemy Tracer. 7 HP, 3 HP. Get the health back. Can he clutch it out? No! Oh my god!
That could be series defining right there. They're going to be able to restabilize. A little bit of pressure over on the point. Signal gets hit with the anti-nade. Can't get back in the mech. That is essentially first point locked in here for Bliss Marauders. I mean, Ultimates still need to work their way up on both sides, but I mean, that's the minimum you're hoping for there.
It's Icos and the D-Mech on the Signal that make that possible. If either of the things don't happen, I think we would be seeing this at least be on the other round right now. They're going to take not even new spawns. Icos able to again get the better of Alvin. And it feels like the Tier 4 Demons finally are beginning to crumble. Kill the Hog in full swing. Finally, Icos activated for the first time since map 1. And Tier 4 Demons, no answers.
No answers yet. Ultimates are going to start becoming a factor, though. Pac-Man might be the biggest one this early on. Gonna have the Nano. 3-man anti, though. Need to try to find somebody in this exchange. Nobody goes down, though. Nepu trying to get closer and closer to the primal rage. Paul sticking perfectly onto control. Big sleep on the Celix. To keep this one going, we're down to a 4v4 situation. Fight has moved over towards the point right here. They're moving as far as they possibly can right now. Nepu wants to live long enough, potentially get this primal rage in time. Unfortunately, I think the numbers game is starting to go way out of hand here. We'll be able to get online. This will cause a little bit longer of a stall here, but nobody is even close to getting back. I think this is just going to be delaying the inevitable.
That being said, for the amount of time you had, you'll absolutely take this much progress, right?
Oh, yeah.
Tier 4 Demons, I mean, it feels like realistic for both these sides. In fact, we've just been flip-flopping between which one's got the lead. We went into overtime with it being pretty firmly to the Demons. Now, after, you know, round 3, it's Marauders, you think the ones holding all the cards. 60 meters through the second point. Absolutely finishable, capable for the Demons. Closing out their series in a 3-0 fashion. Marauders want to at least make this one close. And all they have to do that is defend for 1 minute and 38 seconds.
Yeah, it is definitely doable in this situation right here. Obviously didn't have much success on their original defense, but hey, you gotta take this opportunity to quickly learn from that. You know, they're gonna put a lot of pressure over on down this point, especially Larvin, who's pretty much gonna try to stick with it the entirety of that time. But of course, Larvin lost out on that 1v1, crucial 1v1 on that attack just now. So, I mean, honestly, the best I could say is you need to just clutch up. You need to win those 1v1s. You need to come through and just essentially do what you did before, because it works so brilliantly on those first 2 points.
Reaper, we're going to be seeing by the looks of things. Okay, no, we're just baiting weird stuff in spawn. Spawn peak. It's going to get some damage onto Nepu, but no more than that. We have to imagine this position on a timer as the micro missiles force him out. Nade already expended, and relatively little value. I have to say, this is a great resource trade, in my opinion, for the Demons.
Yeah, I don't mind it whatsoever. It's going to be able to jump back up, get a little bit of care. You're not going to do a whole lot to really stop a lot of the progress of this cart for the time being. Everybody's full committing to it, but now Selic has gone down super early. Everyone's getting forced back around, getting back to control of the high ground if you are Nepu. And now, I mean, this first 30 seconds, this is exactly what you want.
Seems so. I don't know, great nade connected from RK, and because of that, we're able to get our opening couple kills. 60-second Tolt going to go out, but we have traded 1-4, and with closer spawns, that's always going to favor the attackers. As long as Alvin can live in the backline, then they should be pretty good for a hit in the next 10 to 15 seconds.
Yeah, and now Teleg is going to move in super aggro here. Eventually, he's going to have to abandon the high ground entirely, going to opt for the point instead. Ultimate's not a big factor quite yet, but I mean, Echo is just going to have a pulse bomb around the corner. Is way far ahead than Larvin in the situation right here. It could be big, especially with Uzia not anywhere close to having this rally.
Celtics is going in so desynced with basically
God.
anything else. I'm not sure we're finding the individual pressure. And a DMEC, 20 seconds left to go. Recall out of Alvin. This is red alarm bells. Everything you can possibly do to stay alive for the demons as they get stuck.
Ooh, that's bad. And now you might, I would say maybe if the Nano, you're demon to keep them alive, but now, nah. Nano's gone. It didn't go through the signal in time, and now, hey, Bliss Marauders gonna take it to a fourth map here. They get momentum going, and I think right now, Spectron, this is them basically finding the secret sauce right here. But now that they have the sauce, they found it at a point where, I mean, map control, ban control, it's not in their favor anymore.
I don't know. This is a very exciting game of Overwatch. I'll put it that way. I am still kind of readjusting myself from the expectation that would be a 3-0 because I really did think it would be that, you know, especially after that second round of play. But it feels like once we started going into overtime, the Celtics Reaper, it wasn't so inspiring. It was consistent, full cooldown cycles used to like 100 damage. And I just feel like if we're on Echo or Cassidy or any of the other heroes we've seen them on throughout this series, we'd have a bit of a closer game. But as it stands, 2-1 now. And if I am the Demons, you're still confident enough you can win, right? You've got, as you mentioned, first ban, map pick throughout the rest of the series, 2 in a row. And we've seen how close it's been, even when you don't necessarily have that. This, Gibraltar, a one-off. There's no other map that you can be taken to, right? Where you have to play this comp. And so you just go back to the Ori that was working so well for you. And it surely would be a 3-1 for Bliss Marauders. That being said, maybe finally with some wind in their sails, they can make that mirror a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the way Killerhog was able to pop off on the Sojourn before, able to get a lot of value out of it. So we'll see what that is like. But now, with the map pulled away that it is, all that is left available here for T4 Demons is either hybrid or push, which, to be fair, the style that they were doing earlier, I mean, a majority of these maps, well, I don't know if I say majority, but a lot of them match up with what you were going for on those first 2 maps. You could pretty much go to relatively any push and still get away with that. I guess you could lean towards more something like Runasapi. Obviously, King's Row is still in the map pool as well. You have a couple of really good choices to go back that way. Obviously, the ban situation is something you have to consider. Obviously, the Smash is being taken out already, so if Bliss Marauders do get the opportunity to ban, I mean, you would think this is the opportunity right now to get that Orisa if they are given the opportunity.
Yeah, I don't know. I did like the Orisa. I think a ban of it wouldn't make much sense for the Demons. Obviously, Bliss Marauders, though, it's an option. I think Tank Protect, a necessity for the Demons.
Yeah.
Go towards like a Ram, and then you try and force like an each per answer is probably how I would look at it. And then Bliss Marauders, if I were them in that scenario, just ban Cass. It's been annoying. But we'll really have to wait and see. It's a very, how to say, changing scenario we're in this specific point of the game, right? We've just gone from close map 1, but Tier 4 Demons with the lead, to a map 2, which is all Demons. 100%, call it hell at that point. And then a map 3, where we twist and turn and through the winding road, eventually get to our first non-3 Overwatch that I've seen in playoffs, realistically. And so where do we go from here?
Yeah, it's been a minute since I saw what a map 4 was. I thought map 4s were just myths at this point. But hey, we get to witness one with our own eyes. We'll see what the pick is going to be here shortly from T4 Demons. This is their first map pick since the very beginning back on Lijiang Tower. So we'll see what they want to do here. Again, I think it might just be as straightforward as either King's Row in the situation right here. It's straightforward. You know what you want to play within that situation right here, and I just genuinely can't imagine it being anything different.
Yeah, we can only wait and see, unfortunately. I don't know. I would kind of want to see that, actually, if we do see anything manifest, but I don't know. By the way, I know we haven't mentioned it all broadcast long, but like Vendetta, does she not look kind of sick? I don't know. I'm very excited for their new hero to come out. I won't be able to play test her, I believe, because in Stockholm they don't have PCs, and I will be there over the entire playtest. So
computers don't exist in Sweden.
This is true. This is true.
Outlawed.
Name one Swedish player.
I should be able to actually answer this question. I mean,
you've heard that one. It's cheating.
Yeah. What? It's. Oh no. If I'm wrong, I'm gonna hate myself. Isn't Reinforced Swedish?
Yes.
Was a pro player.
Yeah, that is true. Back in the day, back when they still had internet.
Yeah, back before internet was outlawed too. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
But either way, I'm excited because I get to stay here because I'm in the States. I'm staying here. I get to test Vendetta. We'll see how that goes down. But I'm the last person that should be touching a DPS hero, so we'll see how that goes down. But regardless, let's look and see where we're going next, ladies and gentlemen. 4th map pick here. And it's going to be, of course, Kings Row. T4 Demons think they can take it here. They think they can go all out with that Brawl style once more. And again, with the Symmetra already being banned, in a protection potentially on the way here, that Orisa Sim might just be right back on the menu.
I have to imagine it maybe would be. I guess the other thing we'll have to just wait and see is how the bans end up happening. Because as you mentioned, Sim ban, no longer an option. The Sim was so brutal on that map one. I mean, absolutely shredding the Marauders, so it has to be at the forefront of their minds. How can they avoid that? That being said, I don't think Sim here is as strong as on Control Centers, on the sidelines a bit longer. So she ends up having some fights where she's super good, and some fights where she's essentially cosmetic. And so that Feast of Famine, I'm not sure every team would want to go towards. First ban for Tier 4, they can go towards anything they want, you know, other than a couple. And, see what they decide to manifest. I couldn't quite tell you, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, this could just be a protection that would be the safe route, but there are some potential good ones outside of that. And in fact, the Soj ban ends up coming through in this situation, which... Did they not already ban Soj? Did they not already ban Soj like in map 2?
They banned Soj. They banned Soj map 2.
Yeah, I don't
I don't think they're allowed to do that.
Someone call the esports committee.
Someone call the esports integrity commission.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll have to figure that one out. You've been caught red-handed, ladies and gentlemen. You owe us 200 CGL tokens in part to Headrammer. Unfortunately, such is life. But to be fair, after what Kill the Hog did, I would try to ban it the second time too. I'm not gonna lie.
It was high value. It was high value. And it's something they are going to have to deal with going forward. It also means that, well, we'll have to wait and see the admin decision, right? But it's pretty unfortunate. I think it kind of does show exactly how rattled the Demons are after that, that map 1. Because now, I mean, if you are Blitz Marauders, do you get like a second chance to pick your ban as well? Now you see what your opponents kind of want to do. Like it's a whole fresh scenario. So we're gonna have to figure this one out. And indeed, it is happening. It's happening right now. We're having a discussion, and until then, you're stuck with us, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I personally, from my understanding of the rule set, don't think they can ban a hero twice, regardless of how big the stretch is in between. We could be going to a first to 4. That doesn't mean you can ban a Sojourn on the first map and the 7th map. I wouldn't imagine that be the case. Elsewise, I would pretty much be banning a certain hero on the first map, the 3rd map, the 5th map, over and over again. And the rule doesn't usually go that way for a very specific reason. Imagine practicing a composition and your character is taken out for a majority of those maps. Like, that's just a little unbalanced.
Imagine you're playing into, like, Golden Pants, you just ban ball every second. That sounds so miserable.
Oh, God.
Or like you're playing into, like, Cloudy, Ryan's just dead. Permanently.
Yeah, just permanently dead.
Yeah, because when you're not banning him, you can just, like, go towards, like, a Gibraltar or somewhere else where you just can't play it. I don't know, that would be bonkers.
It would be bonkers. We'll figure this out pretty shortly. I mean, I think there's the rule book, yeah. So I think elsewise, if they go ahead and try to ban another, I think you just go back down, ban X tank, whatever have you may. Maybe the Ramatra route, because we saw a little bit of Ramatra earlier from Bliss Marauders, I guess. I guess it doesn't particularly matter too much on the tank. But I figure at this point, you just go to the tried and true, you protect the Orisa, you do Orisa sim, you hold on to things like these archways, like these really hard corners to get through on these first 2 points.
I feel like that's part of why attacking King's Row is so beneficial with the Orisa. The corners are that impactful. All you can do is take a brawl matchup, and that's why we're not likely to see a Winston here, even though it was obviously the only place we have seen Bliss Marauders take their map. Ori, of course, still a reasonable ban. They have to consider it as a possibility. If that does manifest, we can expect Ramatra Zarya, I would say, in the current economy, are your best picks. Low key, you can play Ryan. I know people don't play Ryan unless you're LH Cloudy, but I'm floating the possibility. If you want, you know, you get funky with it, get creative.
Hey, you can do it. But either way, we do have an official ruling on that situation, and it's as we have alluded to in Section 6, Article 6, Line 3, a hero can only be banned once in a series per team. So obviously, Sojourn cannot be banned a second time. We'll see what that'll mean for the situation, but I imagine they'll just be given the opportunity to reselect and go down a different route. Obviously, it'll take a moment to find out what that is, but I think we pray on the money that it's just going to be one of the tanks being taken out, protect the Orisa. But the one thing we haven't really talked about is what Marauders would want to ban in a situation like this.
Yeah, I mean, if I am the Marauders, again, I'm really worried about that Orisa matchup. What you wanted to play, it didn't work out for you. You'd rather just take the mirror away straight up. You were losing to the Reaper as well. That was one of the big compositional differences. So those are the 2 things that come to mind first. If I was them, I'd probably be thinking about just going to a Zarya anyway, where the Reaper isn't so much of a problem. The Orisa is a relatively good 1v1 for you, so I'd be looking to counters for that. So I would maybe even think about like a BAP ban, so force like the Kyrie backline, so you can have more in your tempo. You have a lot of options here depending on what you want to do, but what you want to do really looks you into one ban line, if that makes sense.
Nah, it makes entirely a lot of sense here. So we'll see momentarily what the situation ends up being. I've had a scenario where I'm like, yeah, bans typically go this way. This seems like the right choice. And I feel like more often than not, I have been dead wrong. So I tend to go in and say, hey, guys, I might be a bit of an idiot, but y'all expect that going to this. I'm the white boy NA guy here doing EU. I'm not always correct, such as life. But at this point, all I can do is ramble on until we find out what the situation is going to be. The map 2 ban. All right, so interesting.
The map 2 graphic was, okay. So Sojourn's banned by the other team, apparently. So
Why would you ban the Soj? I mean, obviously, maybe that was just Killahog pulling something out and making it work, but you'd figure Killahog would know, hey, I'm pretty good at this character. Maybe we should keep it alive a little bit.
That, I'm afraid I could not tell you, but we're going to have to simply reckon with the results of our actions. As a wise person on the internet once said, there are consequences for them. Obviously, King's Row going to be playing out. Again, the bans, to remind you, Orisa and Sojourn. So the tanks we see defensively, the Malga. I gotta say, this is really awkward. The Cass wants to play for long fight, so does the Sim. The Malga wants to play for incredibly short fight, and he's gonna get poked out incredibly easily. I'm not a big fan of this whatsoever. Whereas Bliss Marauders can kind of do whatever they want. The Reaper makes a lot more sense here. Tracer makes a lot more sense here. I think their composition, at least, is better.
Yeah, I think I'd agree in a situation like this. It's still going to be rough in some scenarios to walk into T4 Demons in this particular situation. Nepu obviously deciding, hey, I'm just going to match it at this point. Why not? I think it's the right decision. And now they're going to try to make something work here as Echoes has made their way around. Is going to try to help out a little bit with the pincer, get rid of somebody. But to be fair, that Cassie's right in your face. It is going to be a little difficult to deal with, but those Marauders just want to get some stabilization over on this point. But Nepu has to get out pretty much immediately.
Yeah, but he is able to get out. It means that, in theory, you should be able to stable. Control will be building towards that Kitsune rush here. Flash doesn't connect, but the Peacekeeper will. Pac-Man as well, able to take care of Nepu, and Alvin walking around here for Demons. Might not have the combat necessarily like, but the momentum was definitely in their favor. And this Tracer, surely going to be hunted down, as there's just a horde of blue, a cavalcade of it. I mean, moving towards her, Aika's super late death.
Yeah, super late death now. A little over a minute has already been taken off of the clock here. As Kill the Hog on this Cassidy obviously wants to try to get something going, and we'll see whether or not that will be the case immediately. But if you're Bliss Marauders, I mean, you go in the situation, you have RK back over on that Wuyong. Get the choice. Signal, though, is going to have this cage right here very shortly. If you wanted to go super aggro, I mean, the opportunity is there, but Buys are going to start throwing themselves over on the point. Kill the Hog being taken care of early on means you lose a bunch of that potential. Unfortunately for Bliss Marauders, this fight should be falling apart.
Yeah, seems like it. Napu, okay, Ox Control, all going down. Tearful Demons, so comfortable right now. I mean, I guess it's fine if you play for long fight, as long as your opponents don't go for well-executed hits, which they kind of aren't doing right now. Kill the Hog, obviously no longer on that Reaper. Symmetra now, I guess they want to go for a walk up to statue, TP higher grounds, then use your superior angles to win a shooting fight?
Yeah, instead, that Deadeye around, and nasty stuff to be taken out right there by Larvin, and now it's all about just cleaning everybody else up. Everybody's in a really weird position. And to be fair, I might just try to get entirely out of dodge here. Just keep your three together. They can't live here, and in fact, they are.
I mean, you'll take that, but at the end of the day, you still lost the fight to only a Deadeye, right? You're still not feeling too great about yourself. Kids who pop from control, maybe you'll give them the advantage they need.
Ooh. Yeah, and it just might right here. You might have to wait out this wall at least momentarily, because cage fight is not going to fully take care of business. You do end up getting a nice trade out, and eventually RK and Kill the Hog are going to be able to close this one out. Larvin, not a chance in the world, so Bliss Marauders should be able to stabilize, take this point right here. I can't imagine this will be contested.
Seems so. I mean, you could.
Wait,
it would. No, they can
it.
actually. They can with a beat in the cage. They want to
decide
pay.
not
Yeah, I mean that's reasonable as well. But I would have liked to see the recontest. I think it's got a decent chance of odds, but you would lose the next fight after. So just depends on
100%.
how you want to budget your ults.
Yeah, and now they get to play for Archway as well, so if they do stabilize, they are in, I mean, they are in S+ tier position going on for a while. But now cage fight has been used here. You have a tidal wave sitting by, get the road directly over onto your Mauga. It doesn't do a whole lot at the end of the day, which is perfectly fine. You're trading out a bunch of ultimates, you can't be mad. But now Bliss Marauders have literally nothing, and they're not even fully winning this fight either.
They're losing it straight up. They're down players, and it's a Tearful Demons one with double supports to use how they want. Signal gonna have to lay off the aggression. No Kiriko means that your sustainability is somewhat limited. There's only so much that Izzy can do. But now, I mean, you've got the king's pick of ways to approach this fight, right? Slow play for Deadeye, beat engage, Kitsu engage. I mean, even like receiver hit and then go next. You've got so many different options, and go towards anyone you want.
Ooh, Kitsune Rush is out, but you lose Pac-Man directly afterwards. And now, this slam of all time comes through. Signal gets rid of one. Falling apart one after another. Deadeye has been used by Larvin, and they're going to win this fight. But hey, you're silver lining here, Bliss Marauders. You forced out 3 ultimates in that fight.
Yeah, you do, which is, I mean, definitely an overspend from the Demons. I'm not quite sure how that even happens. You still have a wall in the next fight, so as long as you fight with the Photon Barrier, you've got a good chance, but you're going to be feeling the economic damage of that previous fight for a little while now. Signal already has to back out.
No, 100% here. Signal getting out of there, wants to be able to stabilize. All slowly becoming a factor. You're going to have that tidal wave available, but Celix is going to go in aggro with this wall. Everyone just going to simply get out of dodge, stay alive, as all this is going to do is just burn a little more time off that clock.
Yeah, I mean, a bit of wall angle there, you know, tilted it towards the left rather than the right would have made it so much easier to push a little bit deeper, but unfortunately, where is my Symmetra? Stomp gets him out of dodge, but it was way more awkward than it had to be. Both sides now, somewhat on the back foot.
Yeah, everyone a little separated. Signal's going to try to go for the big man stop. Doesn't quite happen. As again, a lot around the corner. Bliss Marauders are going to have all 5 ultimates. Unfortunately, he's only got an opportunity to use one of them as they're going to send in the Symmetra. Doesn't really get any ideal targets. Pigman gets really low, but now you're going to get that cage fight rocking and rolling. Nepu pretty much has no chance of survival. So again, bright side is you get the cage fight out. Bliss Marauders have a big ult economy in this next and potentially final fight.
I'm not strictly sure you needed the cage fight, but it did get the job done. 45 seconds left to go, though, and Bliss Marauders, as you mentioned, scoring up with 5 check marks. Bloody scary. So, best case scenario for you is getting incredible value out of this TP Deadeye. Last time, it got a double kill. This time, what do we have in the cards?
Yeah, we'll see what's going to be available here. And now Pulse Bomb being thrown out by Echoes. No receipts, unfortunately. Larvin is kind of struggling over on the side, but gets rid of Echoes. And now you're in a 4v5. This is going to be difficult, and they're going all in. This is the all-or-nothing fight right here. If they lose this, I don't have much faith in this really going any other way. But Cleanse comes out, keeps everybody alive. Larvin has eventually been taken care of. You try to stomp away, but everyone gets out just in time. So Signal is on a bit of an island here, but Beat is expanded, and here comes the all-out aggression. Big man stop once again. They're being blown away one at a time. Kill the Hog deleted, and this is as far as the Marauders are going to go. And now Demons, they have their finish line directly before their faces, and Spec, all things considered, even with a little bit of stall here, it's not all that far. And for T4 Demons, I mean, you got them right where you want them.
You got 3 fights to take it, I would say. Yeah. 3 fight wins, that is. This is going to feel very stressful for Ballista Marauders, especially if their first defense isn't great. That could be a very long arch hold that needs to manifest. I think Tier 4 Demons have again put themselves in a great position to close out this series. But they did this on Gibraltar too, at times. And that time they fumbled it. Maybe it is a high-pressure thing, but it feels like it's hard to write off Ballista Marauders just yet, who were able to find some great fights still. It feels like this time, Kill the Hog, when not on that Sojourn, is simply not having the same amount of value. This insistence on playing the Symmetra Tracer setup, I think, is definitely hurting them, and I would like to see him back on like a cast of Freya, if at all possible. Seems to be what we're going to have on the defense. Freya, Wu Yang, Bat playing extremely hard for the shooting. But I've got to say, with these 4 members surrounding Nepu, would you not rather have him on something like a D.Va or like a Hazard, Ramatra even, which, you know, plays a little bit more towards that tempo?
Yeah, I mean, I'd really like to go down that way, and now it's weird now because this wasn't working potentially or realistically all that good for Ballista Marauders. You change things around a little bit, kill the Hogs over on the Freya, which, to be fair, if Larvin decides to stick on this Widow for longer than a single shot here, could be an issue, but we'll see what will come our way. Ballista Marauders, we counted them out once before. They clutched up. Let's see if they can do it once again.
Widow Spawn Peak. We've done it for so long. When was the last time anyone actually saw it get a kill? Today won't be the day, at the very least. And Larvin Alvin onto the Cassidy. A strong matchup into the Tracer, who just eats the flashbang.
God. You might just have to get out of dodge almost immediately here. This is a rough one to give up this early on. Nepu's gone. Yeah, this first point's already done. It's already taken care of. I mean, you managed to get rid of Selic, and that's nice and all, but everyone should be able to stabilize and build this point up. I mean, there's not much you can do elsewise.
Indeed.
Right?
I know. Tries again.
What?
This time we get a trade back. Alvin oversteps most definitely. Signal loses resources in the long fight. That's a weird one.
They shouldn't have lost that realistically, right?
No, never. That being said, you use a minute to get 2/3 of the point. It means that somebody has to be essentially glued to the objective for Ballista Marauders. This isn't the end of the world for you whatsoever, but I'd rather they cleaned up some of these sloppy mistakes.
Yeah, and now everyone's taking over this high ground area, and Kill the Hog getting close to having this first bolo shot ready to go. A little bit of aggression, and Kill the Hog, like they have just seen a ghost looking towards that TP, and now someone has to throw their body over on this point. It's going to have to be Nepu, who's going to go on there and is getting obliterated by the buys, getting stomped into, needs to be kept alive, isn't, and now this is just a stall game right here. Stabilize, throw bodies on the point. Yeah, Ballista Marauders, they are going to try to get away with another big fight. Unfortunately, it's not happening.
Indeed. Alvin, this time, doesn't magic up a way to die. Walks up, kills the DPS. Almost a 5-minute time bank here, and a late kill onto that Kiriko, who's on a different wave to the rest of her team. Not going to be feeling fantastic. We're pushing heavily forward as well. It's going to mean that Ballista Marauders, to defend the Golden Box of Victory, are going to have to even retake the space necessary for it, but not seeing a peak that they like. The Demons happy to play the objective, stack bodies on there in an effort to make a better use of their time bank. I gotta say, considering they rush as well into this, Control needs to finish this off, otherwise, unmirrored, you'll be very, very worried.
I'd be very, very worried right here. In fact, I think at this stage of the game, the way the progress is, if you lose the point on this next corner here, I think it is just done. I think it's just a blitz. There's not realistically enough time to come back and do anything right here. I love going into the Ramatra right here, able to block stop a lot of this away, but Echoes gets incredibly low still as the pulse bomb sitting by is low once again. I mean, Larvin has been on top of this the entire time. everything be thrown into the face of the title. Blast air, there are bodies sitting in their shield just in time to keep bodies alive.
Oh,
but it's
wow.
going to be a temporary expenditure. Team wipe, and for T4 Demons, they move on to the next round. But Bliss Marauders, try as they might, their season ends here and now.
Indeed it will. Able to take a map, able to make it an honorable showing for themselves, but I think the Demons were a lot more comfortable, especially on that ground v ground matchup, right? I think that's the main difference maker. I mean, that final fight, it's everything down main. Kitsu, Deadeye, Wall. There's nothing you can do to stand in that spot. All you can do is fully disengage with your Symmetra. They split 2 separate ways, and because of that, both flanks were easily peeled apart. And that's just the kind of natural play that we don't necessarily always expect from teams who aren't crazy at the ground matchup. But if they were, then maybe we'd be looking at something slightly different. Today, Tier 4 Demons are allowed to play on, but Bliss Marauders, we're sending home.
Yeah, unfortunate for Bliss Marauders going, out 0-2 in the playoffs. But hey, you go through, you have a successful regular season, you go in here, you put up a fight against these big teams, and hey, at the end of the day, obviously not the result you're hoping for, but hey, there's a lot of teams who didn't make it to the top 8 that their season was done, 2 weeks ago, and they are simply having to watch these playoffs. So hey, you get that top 8, you get a little something. You might not be going home with any of that cold hard dollar dues, but hey, you got here, and if nothing else, it's an experience for them all.
Indeed it was, and of course, maybe in the next season there's a slightly stronger run for them. We'll actually be able to see, as we'll be doing a losers interview in a little bit, if I'm not much mistaken, with one of the members of Bliss Marauders Tier 6. So I believe we're going to go to a short break while we get that set up. In the meantime, stick around, because this is something you're not going to want to miss.
Lots of love. Lots of love. Lots of love. 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 Love.
Everybody, welcome back to the other side of our EU Open Tier matchup. T4 Demons take down Blitz Marauders 3-1 in this elimination match. So while they move on to that next round, Blitz Marauders we will be saying goodbye to. But having us here for a quick little exit video. Oh my goodness, English should be my first language. We have Nepu joining us on the side of Blitz Marauders. And hey, I mean, first and foremost, unfortunate situation, but hey, y'all top 8, you get to the playoffs. There's a lot of teams that aren't able to say that.
Yeah, it's a pain, sadly, to go out like that, but
yeah. But obviously, I mean, y'all go into the playoffs and just obviously you go through the regular season. What was just kind of the mindset going in the playoffs out the gate in terms of like who picked you? What were the expectations going into it?
I think initially when we got paired with Aura Farmers, I think we knew obviously it was going to be insanely tough, most likely not something we could 100% win. We were going to obviously try our best for it. I think inherently, we honestly were kind of hoping to play against Dream Eaters or something if possible, hoping they would pick us, but sadly, we all got taken, and then yeah. So I think we just went into the playoffs with the mindset just to do our best, to have fun if possible. And then, worst case, do our best to make a loser's bracket run and make it as exciting as we can.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, for me, first, I want to ask you, obviously the game plan then was to play the Orisa. It seemed very close at times, and other times, you know, thinking more about Atlas, maybe less so. What do you think felt like the difference between, for example, your Lijiang and your Atlas, to the point where you felt like Gibraltar was your only option going up next?
I think it was a mix of our... I'd say mostly coordination. I think we struggled it especially on Atlas. Like, it pains me because I feel like Atlas felt close in the fights themselves, but we just never had enough wiggle room to clutch out the points, which is what pains me. Lijiang, I think I fumbled a little bit admittedly by going Ram, but I think generally coordination was a struggle for us, especially on the Atlas side of things compared to Lijiang, where we were able to rotate more effectively, hold points more effectively. Atlas, a lot of the time, me and attacks would split, or attacks would try to go in while I go out, or vice versa. And we would lose a lot of pressure on our rotates, I think, especially from that.
And then also, I want to ask, obviously Gibraltar was a super close map, one that you was eventually able to squeak the win through. Why do you think it was so close, especially after, you know, capped with, you know, a minute 10 on the bank, and what do you think eventually got you over the line on it?
We had a really nice call after. Admittedly, I kind of C9'd, so slightly almost fumbled horribly. I got a little greedy on an Ananade. We had a really nice call basically we just sort of reviewed what went wrong on our points, and we sort of said, we can play first to drain the clock as much as possible on our defense, potentially even just holding first corner. And then making sure that I'm being safe when I'm going in and out, keeping our LOS clear between Ana. I just think it was mainly a nice review of what happened, and playing to our win conditions.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, 100%. But obviously, with everything said and done, I mean, just the season as a whole, everything you've gotten to experience, what has been kind of your biggest takeaway, whether that is as individually as a player or perhaps as a team?
I think for me personally, it's always been a consistency thing. I think there are times where I need to do my best a lot, or how would I word that? That's not the right. For me personally, consistency in the sense that I think I sometimes doubt what I can do or get overconfident on what I can do, and I think I need to find a good level to myself and understand that I can, to an extent, stand where other tanks also do, and not feel like, what's the word? Pressured to do less or something, or to be overconfident in any of that sort. And as a team, I think generally just working to be more of a unit as one, making sure we are consistent as a whole, as a group. I think that's what sticks out to me the most.
It's definitely a good lesson to have, but obviously we're near the end of this interview right here at Nepu. But before we send you on your way, just with the end of the season here, if there's just anything else that you want to say, if there's anybody that you want to shout out, we're going to go ahead and open up that floor to you, so take it away.
Yeah, obviously I'd like to shout out all of BM. I think they're incredible, and they when they're in scrims and games, we like to do our best. Kill the Hog especially always likes to keep me in check in a good way, to like make sure I'm always on board, making sure I'm working on mistakes and whatnot. Tier 4 Demons, a good bloody lot of them are my friends, so I can only wish them the best of luck on their run. And yeah, I hope it's a great tournament.
Yeah, definitely gearing up to be such one right there. But again, Nepu, hey, Tape, congratulations on a good regular season. Unfortunate things end as soon as they are, but I think y'all did a fantastic job. Y'all gave us an entertaining series, and I hope nothing but the best for you and your team's future.
Of course. Thank you so much, guys.
All right. Yep. Take care now. There you have it. There you are. Spectrum at the end of the day. I mean, hey, you go into the situations, you try to learn from it at the very least, and I think it's a situation where, hey, Nepu and the squad kind of learned from it, they experienced it, they realized what they were able to do, what they weren't, they went in, and, I mean, to be fair, all things considered, they put up a really good fight against a game T4 Marauder, or T4 Demons, I should say.
Yeah, no, the Demons looking incredible, and I think Marauders did a pretty good job of, holding back the tide, unfortunately. Only so much you can do against all that force, and they did end up losing. T4 Demons now will be advanced. Remember, that's a losers bracket game, which we'll see in a little bit, I assume. I'd forget the exact matchup because I'm a Chungus cast, I'm afraid, but they still have plenty of bracket left to play if they can continue finding these wins. I'm trying to think. We've got other games happening as well simultaneously, do we? Yes.
Yeah, we do.
Bliss Excelsior's the DYS budget approved was happening. Is it still happening? 3-0. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so EMC Managarmr versus Zero Recall will be hopping to in just a little bit.
Yeah, that should be a pretty good game in its own right. I remember kind of mentioning that one before. Managarmr had quite a game of their own, and now Zero Recall going to meet them there. Should be a very entertaining game here in a short little while, so I hope you'll end up coming out for that. But of course, there is plenty of CGL action happening over the course of the next couple of weeks to finish out these playoffs. And while some of these divisions, again, still have a lot of games to do, some of them are starting to narrow down already to their top 4, top 3. And we'll be having a lot of those grand finals coming shortly. Obviously, it's a very chaotic time of the year for Overwatch esports. Everything from, a bunch of collegiate stuff is coming towards its end. OWCS finals is right around the corner. There's a lot happening right now, but CGL is still going to be here to put on as many games as humanly possible, because with the amount of players, teams, coaches, everybody that we have involved here, there are plenty of amazing matches yet to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So make sure you're following CGL 1, 2, and maybe even 3 if we get extra excited, because all the action will be there. But for myself, Hunter, Luau, and Lottie on the broadcast, I think we must bid you all adieu. So we shall see you the next time all the broadcast is happening in the next, half an hour. So, come back in a bit for some more CGL action. Deuces.
live. Okay. Well, we have our first match coming up on. Oh, it's all good, producer. We love you around here. We are live here with season 16 playoffs. We're going into EMC Managarmr, into Zero Recall, first to 3. A little bit scuffed, right? These guys were supposed to start about 20 minutes ago, but there was a banger series happening that honestly we had to kind of tune in for a little bit longer than expected. But that being said, Megalas, we know our teams. We know this is a very small bracket, so only 4 teams. So pretty much we're almost done with this playoffs, at least for these guys.
Yeah, and already nearing the end despite this being loser round 1, but hey, that's what happens when you only have 4 teams in a bracket. It should be an interesting match here. Again, loser goes home, winner gets to keep on fighting, live to fight another day, the saying goes here. It should be an interesting one, right? I mean, just on paper, being super realistic. EMC literally has not won a series the entire season. And Zero Recall sitting right above them at like a 3-4 record. So, if there were a time to get a win, it would be right now.
They have to, right? As you mentioned, they are very much in the deficit when it comes to the wins. They have a couple map wins, as you mentioned, but not really any series wins under their belts. And again, it's a 4-man bracket, so listen, it's just a matter of fact of we're here, we're playing the game, we're here to at least just finish out the season relatively strong, especially in the lower bracket here. And this is round 1. We just finished winners round 2 of the GM tier here, Bliss Excelsior versus DYS. It ended up in a big win for DYS Budget Approved, getting to 3-0 earlier, as you mentioned, in a previous stream. And now, really, the lower bracket is stacked up. Now you're really going from a winner of this has to go into Bliss Excelsior to get that grand final spot, at least, for now. And depends on how they're going to start things off, of course, depending on what map we're going to. Usually it's been Lijiang Tower, and just like today, it's no different. It's going to be Lijiang Tower opening up our first map of possibly 5.
Yeah, exactly, right. Lijiang Tower, it is the sort of that standard starting base a lot of teams like to pick from purely because it's like, again, they expect it, the bread and butter. We say it every single broadcast, these teams, they know this map like the back of their hands. The things that they might not know, though, are where these bans are going to go here, with EMC striking first, getting the Malga out of the way here, something that has slowly been creeping up on the meta, but haven't really seen it have its effect just yet.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of it previously, right? Some Malga hasn't played a lot here. Malga, Zarya has really just been a brawl fest in the grand scheme of things. Even some Ramatra and Reinhardt. And I think with the Pharah ban coming in from Zero Recall, this is a very safe ban, I would say, at least coming in on Lijiang Tower. She's relatively solid on Night Market. She's solid on Gardens. Control Centers, where she kind of is a little bit more lackluster, but can still be played there for sure. So both these bans have their merit. I think one is just to be safe, to make sure that they don't really want to play into Amalga, especially if you walk out on a Hazard or if you walk out on Orisa, especially with the new changes they made to the fact that they can't block headshots in Spike Guard and things like that. So that's the bans. Here are the head-to-heads. EMC Managarmr coming through with their starting 5 lineups of Yoshi, Ozzy, Flame, Octo, and Imperador. Zero Recall coming through with their own 5. We have Koryo, we have Mia, we have Tupac Punch, Mei, and Vega. Can't wait to see what these guys really do bring to the table here as we start off on Lijiang Tower.
Yeah, totally real Vega. Totally not just somebody with the same name, I swear.
Totally.
Getting ready for Stockholm, sleeper stuff. Here to play in CGL GM tier, that's the real stuff we're talking about. But yeah, it should be an interesting one, like you were talking about, heading into Lijiang with both the Malga and Pharah out of the picture here. You're going to see some pretty standard stuff across the maps here. Would not be surprised at all to see some sort of brawl variant win out. It normally ends up being the Orisa or the Ramatra these days on Control Center, and then as you go to Night Market as well as Garden, the Diva can come into the mix, and that of course brings the Zarya in tow as a counter pick, and the comps that build around it. Generally, you got the Lucio Kiris, you got the Juno Briggs, all pretty standard, but hey, maybe one of these teams has a little surprise in the back pocket.
They should, right? And again, it comes down to just what you want to play in this close range, these close and quarters that is offered on Lijiang Tower, especially if you think about Control Center specifically. You can see that Zarya and that Reaper come through as a combination. We've also been seeing a lot more Cassidy's come back to their fray. We've been seeing, of course, Freya in general is just a strong character in and of her own right. Sojourn, very consistent in that regard. In the same breath, the backline can also see some variations. Some teams have been really honing in on that Kiriko and that Wu Yang, or they like to go for something more consistent, a little more standard, which is the Kiriko and the Lucio, right? So there's a couple of different compositions that can definitely come out here from either side. It kind of just comes down and boils down to who plays this first round better and who can get that momentum building for themselves.
Exactly, right? You always want to start off a series on the right foot, and if you can get that early map win, it can build into something greater here. Always nice to have, again, just that kind of momentum and potential going forward in a series here. As we are just waiting to start, I promise we're not just yapping because we're bored. It seems the teams just decide that they're going to go through the ban phase and then not be ready. They decided being ready would be just kind of a little cringe. But hey, it happens to the best of us, and as they're sitting and deliberating the status of their readiness, it is just, again, Lijiang Tower, fun little map, fun little Overwatch. Who doesn't love Overwatch, It's great.
I love Overwatch very, very much. I mean, listen, Mega, if since we're here just kind of waiting around for our teams to get themselves ready, get their waters, get their bathroom breaks, all that jazz out of the way, I've been up since 5 a.m. casting, and I can't wait to cast up Overwatch, because it was so scuffed this morning when I had to wake up at 4:30 for a Smash Bros. Ultimate cast. So I'm glad to go back home to where I actually like to see the game and see what's going on. Even if it's characters like people that aren't really super popular, like an Arisa Mirror, Azar Mirror, things like that. I infinitely like it a whole lot more. And finally, we're loading into, it looks like Control Center, I want to say. Yeah, Control Center. So Control Center will be the first sub map that we're going to for Lijiang. Lots of, again, very, very close together in corridors. You're likely going to see a brawl here, especially with racing in that spawn room. A Zarya is in the field.
Quickly to go back to Smash Bros, I have to ask Sakurai, why didn't Tracer get picked for Smash Ultimate? Clearly, you
Truth
dropped the ball
nuke.
there.
Oh my god.
Listen, did we need 18 sword fighters? Did we need the Fire Emblem character for the 19th time? Let's be real for a second, Sakurai. Lock in. But hey, speaking of locking in here, both squads are in the spawn. You've got the Zarya Reaper for EMC, so you're going to be seeing a lot of bubbles being given over to Yoshi, and just sort of enabling that Reaper to hit the W key as hard as possible. Whereas Zero Recall, much more standard brawl with Mio on the Sojourn, trying to find some off angles and some well-placed railguns.
That's the scary part, is this Sojourn from Mio will be the one that can really end these fights really early on. The disengage is really good coming from Parador, knowing that, okay, I'm down bubbles, I need to back up, and we do have high charge at the very least, so you can see that first target will be Mei on that Baptiste. Could not find a way to get out. Even better is that the Immortality Field was not able to save him fast enough. So that's going to be, again, the next opening being Ozzy following up onto Vega. Octo also being traded off for the Lucio, but without that speed boost to help to P.E.K.K.A Punch to get out safely, that's just going to be a simple and easy follow-up from Managarmr, and they're going to take the first point first here.
Yeah, and you're seeing Oreo trying to lurk in the backlines here is going to be pushed away. But that's unfortunately what a Tracer sort of has to do in these comps. You have to be a lurker because you don't have really a lot of ability to help the front line.
Yeah, Yoshi kind of just walked right into Mio's rail shot, and then Mio just felt so unpressured. Didn't really feel like, had to disengage at all. And Porter, once again, going super low, not having any sort of resources to stay alive, especially in the faces of the Ramattra pummel. And again, Mio, really the one cleaning up a lot of these engagements, opening up the fight with a solid pick onto Yoshi, and then everything else just kind of fell right into the hands of Zero Recall.
Yeah. No, almost perfectly so, you could say here, but now with Recall in control here, they're going to be building up closer and closer to some key ultimates here across the board for both squads, and especially looking towards these Tracers, both with a Pulse Bomb already about to be online here, and that key pick could be the best way to start a fight.
Whoa! I knew exactly where my was teleporting to, even prior to the bubble actually connecting to the Reaper. Yoshi immediately backs out after the teleportation, but Yoshi finds a new target in the face of P.E.K.K.A Punch, right? So you're down your Ramattra, you're down almost annihilation as well, and Mio's trying to stay living in that front line, trying to get a favorable trade-off for Zero Recall to expend here, but not going to find it. Managarmr flip the point, and they're actually going to push into enemy territory, setting up for the next fight.
Yeah, and being able to push even deeper now. I mean, again, neither team really having to expend much of anything besides that Kitsune rush from Blamey. So now you're seeing, again, Ozzy take the lurk angle.
And we're also seeing the Annihilation and the Overclock expended and the Sound Barrier. So that Sound Barrier is actually going to help Mei stay alive only because of these the overhealth and, of course, the Immortality Field keeping him alive. And Mio peeks for 2 seconds against Ozzy. Ozzy didn't even have the chance to look over and teleport and blink to where we need to go. Just gets immediately rail shot to the face. Their aggression is definitely there from Zero Recall. They bring it back easily, but they use 3 ultimates to do so. They have to go into this grab and this Death Blossom with some sort of response.
Yeah, the response is going to be difficult here. It's pretty much going to be entirely on either not getting caught up into the Graviton Surge, or Mei is going to have the Immortality Field ready to go to sort of keep people alive, but that's also a good way to start it.
I mean, no Kiriko means you know this Mega. That is a big boon here for Managarmr. That without your Kiriko, you can't really do anything. And at that moment, that's going to be Zero Recall again walking on that advantage state. 70% already given to the opposition. And they, again, have a window to play with. They also have a Pulse Bomb coming up. And Managarmr still are holding on to this Graviton Surge and Death Blossom as their life depends on it.
Exactly, and I mean, holding it is starting to become a little bit dicey here as we are approaching that final fight territory. So now you've got a lot of tools, but you got to expend something.
Well, here's a Graviton Surge into the Death Blossom, and again, without Vega's Sound Barrier, without anything to help mitigate that response, it's going to be a very clean cleanup here for Managarmr. A little bit of contested dust coming from Koryo, trying to get at least, to 99%, and we are going to find that at the very least. But then Kuro's like, okay, I did my job. I'm going to back out. Now Managarmr has to make up the next 40% here.
Yeah, but they do have a phenomenal opportunity to do that, right? And it's going to come off the back of this Pulse Bomb, right? If you can find it onto Octo here, that's really the only ultimate that EMC still has in the bank is this Sound Barrier. And with that being said, you also have some amazing tools coming up online.
Oh my god, look at the pressure being put onto Yoshi. Both cooldowns having been used. The pulse bomb goes wide on the side of the staircase, and at the end of the day, Octo is still the one going down early against Managarmr, only relying on just Blame's healing output. And against against Mio's overclock, it's not gonna be enough. 1, 2, 3 heads popped and down. Overtime has been enacted, and we are seeing these guys really stuff this choke area to make sure they get a guaranteed point on the board.
Yeah, and again, Octo was the kill they needed there. You see it still dead with the 98 to a Sound Barrier there. If Octo is allowed to live even for a moment longer, there's potential that Sound Barrier comes through and potentially blocks all of the damage that Mio has coming out from that overclock, as well as the Annihilation that Tupac had built up as well. Overall, phenomenal target prioritization from Zero Recall. EMC definitely playing it incredibly close, though. I like how they're playing. Yoshi definitely doing what is needed with this composition, being incredibly aggressive and knowing that these bubbles are going to come through. It's just a matter of actually finding these picks and being able to sustain a little bit longer as we do see a pause come through, because why not?
Yeah, we're going to see a pause come through requested by Koryo here. At least it's between rounds, so it should be relatively quickly. And usually these pauses are something like kind of go errors, my headphones died, my mouse is dead, even though we should charge our mice every single night, but whatever. It's something like that typically, right? So hopefully we get back into the nitty-gritty early on, because I also want to make sure that neither team lose their momentum. Regardless if you're down or not, you want to make sure you have your synergy still working in your favor. You want to make sure you go into round 2 with at least a little bit of preparation for where we're going to go next and what the plan is going to be. The Zara Reaper, I think, has some merit, but against the stability of the Ramantra comp and also Mio, really, I feel like is not being checked whatsoever. Not by Yoshi, not by the tank, not by the Kiriko, not by anybody really from the side of Managarmr. So Zero Recall are allowing themselves to just kind of walk forward, and they know Mio's on the angle and popping heads at any moment.
Exactly. And that's sort of the nice thing that a Sojourn sort of brings to these engagements is sort of being able to, be that potential pick, right? As well as playing at a range here. As you saw several times when the Reaper teleported in, sometimes you just ended up eating a rail to the face. So even with Bubble, you're still having to Wraith out. And again, that's just the beauty that Sojourn has right now, because even in those situations where you're up close with a Reaper, you have that lovely power slide ability to just get out of dodge, get out of harm's way, at least out of range of those Hellfire shotguns, and then be able to fire back.
Oh, absolutely. And we've seen it so many times. Now, it does look like we are back in our game, and we are starting just on time. We see no swaps here. Looks like Ozzy going back over to Tracer. Choreo also on the Tracer as well. But otherwise, we do see the Kiriko Lucio versus the Baptiste and Lucio. This is a classic. Octo gets the rollout, gets that boop. And we still are seeing Managarmr really just kind of shut down Zero Recall before the fight really ever started.
I really thought I was about to watch the Zarya walk forward to chase the Lucio and get booped. I'm gonna be so real. I mean, like, it's such a death pit for Lucio boops that, like, the fact that anybody even thinks about going bridge when Lucios are being played on both sides, it's honestly laughable. It just shows a blatant disrespect for no reason. But as they're getting ready to engage, already one bubble wasted.
One bubble wasted, and you know Imperator does use them relatively willy-nilly. The second one going down, and thankfully one more is now online, but now no bubbles have been procced back over Imperator. We do have 72% charge, but we're down Yoshi. You're also down Ozzy. You don't have anyone to relieve any of this pressure off of your front line. And again, Mio and Choreo are just completely uncontested pretty much in the rest of the space. A quarter of the point is all that Managarmr were able to garner for themselves before Zero Recall have gotten the flip here.
Yeah, and I'm really loving the follow-up that Zero Recall is showing right now, right? Because even if it's not directly sighted, Mio on the Sojourn is generally shooting at whoever's being caught in 2-box slow fields. And so being able to just catch those targets out time and again here is massive. EMC, though, trying to make a rotation. Oh, God.
Yeah, definitely trying to, but gets again stuffed out quickly by Zero Recall. And then they're getting walked on with the overclock from behind, from the front, from everywhere. They're just completely being chased down by Zero Recall. And now again, the overclock being used, getting amazing value. The pulse bomb in the middle of the fight gave a lot of visual effects. So 40% given to Zero Recall. What can we do with the continued rush from Blame?
I mean, that's sort of the hope, right? What this continuing rush is going to do, but you got to be more decisive if you're EMC. You sort of left yourself in no man's land, waiting for the pincer to collapse on you there. You just have to be decisive against comps like this because they take advantage of your indecisiveness.
Well, thankfully, they're going to go in with the continued rush from the main way down into the objective. Otto also has a sound barrier actually above Vega in that regard, and that's actually where you're going to see Choreo and Vega both go down. Sound barrier does get used in response to the Annihilation. Yoshi does take a turn for the worse, but everyone pretty much ignores Two-Pack-a-Punch in order to look at the rest of the team of Zero Recall. So Two-Pack-a-Punch are just kind of forced to hold block and stall until we get a good about 80% here before they flip over for Managarmr.
Yeah, 80% you'll absolutely take that. I kind of feel like maybe the Annihilation is something you want back in your pocket. You kind of already invested it when they were down 2. You were able to at least trade the sound barrier out, though. Now, knowing that you're pushing into a Graviton Surge here, it is important that Vega builds up this last 8%, or at the very least, Mimi is going to have to hold on to this Immortality field to try to help everybody live and sustain.
Well, Choreo on the angle, trying to find Blame early in the engagement. Blame is fighting back, however, forced to use users on themselves, and the recall has also been expended from Choreo. So big resources are already been used, and you can see Ozzy is trying to follow up onto that lack of resources from, of course, a Tracer. But as he tried going over to the back line, Mio, again, on the angle, takes down Ozzy very early on, very quickly. The big old beam, though, at 82% charge, definitely going to find Mei in that long-range game plan. Both Lucios being traded off. Yoshi taken down by Choreo. It comes down to just making sure our defense and supports can clean up the fight here for the side of Managarmr. And it looks like not going to be able to. Imperator completely out-angled by everybody. And again, the forces of the Ramatra and the Tracer working together is a little bit too much for Managarmr to bear.
Yeah, and so now you're in a very bad situation for EMC. Like, sure, you have some tools and a beautiful opening pick, actually potentially going to be able to turn things around here. But, you know, the sustain that Zero Recall has on this point between the sound barrier, the amplification matrix, it's really going to be hard to break through.
Well, the overclock does get used first. The pulse bomb also find Mio with the lamp a little bit too outside of that range to help Mio stay alive during that pulse bomb. And Yoshi gets a headshot onto Mei after the fact. We're in overtime here, but Zero Recall, I feel like, are okay with that. They have 5 ultimates going into this next fight versus the continued rush, maybe the sound barrier. As we now get the flip here, we have to go for a very quick engagement from Zero Recall.
Yeah, and again, it feels like Tales of Last Round all over again. All eyes on Octo right now and this sound barrier build here. You need to stay alive and you need to get it online to have a chance of living through the Armageddon that Zero Recall is trying to bring to you whenever they approach the point.
I mean, if you're Managarmr, you know they have all the tools in their toolkit. First off, Overclock does get used. Choreo out early, unfortunately, for the Tracer. The window comes in from the back line, and there's a sound barrier made just in time for Octo. The reversal comes in from Vega. And here's the Annihilation layered On top of that, no sound barrier, no over health available to Managarmr, so they have to be careful, and more so, they all leave the point fast enough to allow Zero Recall to actually flip it right under their noses. They have Choreo coming back with the Pulse Bomb, but may not even need to use it, as the rest of the team of Managarmr are slowly faltering and going down for the count. Imperator walks into the Pulse Bomb, and that is going to be the 2-0 of Lijiang Tower given to Zero Recall, giving them a first point in the first to 3.
I mean, it was the best way that you could play that for EMC, but again, you were just up against 5 ultimates. There's just not a whole lot you were going to be able to do in that situation unless you hit like the perfect level plays, and we're getting manufacturing picks out of nowhere there. Overall, a solid round between these two squads with Zero Recall. Again, they look like they have this little Ramatra style down pat here. A lot of synergy between the tank and the Sojourn Tracer being able to follow up on wherever that damage lies. Really incredibly solid.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. It was really, really solid to see how well the Ramatra really worked, especially pressuring out Imperator's bubbles more often than not, right? And when Zara doesn't really have her bubbles, you can kind of charge at her with relative ease as long as everyone's kind of looking at her and making sure that no one goes down early to the Zarya, right? That being said, Zero Recall looking fantastic with that Ramatra composition. It also makes me think that there are some bans in mind here that maybe Managarmr would like to utilize in the future, right? Of course, I think my first thought is Mio's Sojourn. More often than not, Managarmr will be rotating or trying to get a pick or trying to converge on a target, and they forget this Sojourn on the angle, getting the rail shots onto really everybody at least one time. Kind of unexpected more often than not as well. So that could also be a ban moving forward. But before we get to the ban phase, they gotta think about where they want to go map-wise. And this was Control. They have anywhere to go between Flashpoint, Push, Escort, and Hybrid. Do they want to go back to a Flashpoint, a very popular option for people going from map 1 into map 2, especially off the heels of a Control Point? Or do they slow it down? Maybe give us something different. Maybe a Circuit Royale, maybe a Push, maybe Ruin Sapi, something like that.
Yeah, and there's obviously, that's one of the great things about the playoffs right now is that you have a lot of options of where you want to go, right? Because you're not just picking map, you're picking mode. So with all of the options on the table, it really comes down to what your team feels their style is, right? EMC so far has pretty much stuck to that Zarya look. It kind of felt like it was their bread and butter originally with the Reaper like you normally see, but having to switch over to the Sojourn. So, you know, if you want to re-enable the Reaper style of it, you want close quarters. You want to sort of be boxed in with your opponent. Obviously, Flashpoint is what comes to mind there. But there's always going to be sort of angles you have to contest and stuff like that. So while you can try to keep swapping your heroes, there's just kind of also got to be a gameplay adaptation that needs to be made, where maybe you need a little bit more agency, a little bit more aggression to sort of match what Zero Recall is throwing at you here. Otherwise, EMC, you know, they've certainly been here before.
Yeah, they definitely have been here in this position multiple times throughout, not just playoffs, of course, again, only being a short playoffs, but also throughout the regular season. As you mentioned, they have struggled a little bit in the regular season trying to get a map win, or excuse me, a match win. They have a couple map wins under their belt, you know, at the same time. So if they want, again, as you mentioned, if they want to continue running the Zarya and Reaper, if you want to go something like Flashpoint, either Atlas or Servasa, I think is maybe their best bet at reversing this tide here against Zero Recall. But if we're going for a brawl versus brawl situation, I'm a little bit worried because Zero Recall not only once but also twice showcase how much more fluent, how much more mechanically advanced that their brawl really was versus the Zarya and the Reaper, right? So that's something also to keep in mind, especially going into our next map. The world is Managarmr's oyster, and they really have so many different options to go from. And we're talking about brawl, but they again could change up the format a tiny bit. Maybe they want to go to a Circuit Royale, maybe they want to go to a King's Row is also like heavy brawl, but you know, change up the formula a tiny bit here might be the best option for Managarmr to at least get some sort of footing on the field.
Exactly, right? And that's all you're ever looking for at the end of the day is some footing, some ability to sort of put down something and leave your mark on it here. But as we are just rambling and ranting and raving, as they say, yeah, you know, it's just one of those things of, you know, we have to sit and wait. Honestly, I want to talk about how late this match is for EU, because like here on the East Coast, it's like kind of chill or whatever. It's like 4 o'clock, almost 5, but these guys are playing at what, 9, 10 o'clock at night now?
I
and
think
that's
so,
assuming
yeah.
UK, that's assuming you're in the UK. So, you know, listen, me personally, anytime I played in a tournament, I'm not a fan of playing incredibly late, but hey, you know, you got it.
Yeah, no, there are sometimes there are matches that lasted from 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and I'm like, buddy, put it to bed. It's time to go to sleep, because some of these series last up to 2 hours sometimes, especially if they go all 5 games and they really like go to all the way to every single round, and even overtime rounds if you're talking about payload maps as well. But with that being said, oh, it is 21:49 UK time. Oh, that is like 9:40, yeah, 9:50-ish over there. So it's very late. It's getting late for these guys, and they're still deciding on where they want to go. Again, they have, I believe, allotted 2 minutes for decision making in terms of map, and then 2 minutes, I believe, for the ban decision as well. With that being said, we can only waffle for so long before we actually get our map, before we actually get our ban, and finally we have our map locked and loaded. Kings Row is where we're going to go. So still the brawl that we were talking about earlier, but this time with the added effect of moving the payload along from point B to point C and opening up that payload on A.
Yo, we waited that long for Kings Row. We couldn't put, like, I feel as though like we could rub the two sticks together, we could create fire. You know what I mean? Like, this is so interesting, to say the least. But hey, you know, sometimes you need to take extra time to make these decisions. And it seems as though Kings Row was such a weighty decision, but getting Hybrid out of the way as well could be a shout as well. You have tons of the close range and stuff, so you can play with the Reaper, but there's also a lot of high ground across this map that people have been utilizing in more recent years, so that Sojourn definitely going to be prolific unless EMC decides to pull the trigger on a Sojourn ban right away here.
Personally, I would pull that ban immediately. Cause at the very least, you can use that Sojourn here, and then you can maybe use a Tracer on Flashpoint on Runasapi, something like that, to also inhibit Choreo a tiny bit here. Now, that's also given the idea that, of course, Zero Recall are not going to do the exact same thing right back. Now, immediately off rip, it looks like we have our... Whoa, my graphic is trolling me. Hold on. We have our... Yes, there's the ban. Okay, Sojourn coming up on deck. You can see in the little icon on the in the damage area, Sojourn has been banned out by Managarmr, as expected, right, Megalas? We were kind of looking towards that as a valid ban. So Zero Recall have the road cut out for them. You want to ban a tank, you want to ban a support. Really, they feel confident, so I think they can kind of go for whatever really fills their cup here.
Exactly. I would expect it to land on something that's going to inhibit the Zarya Reaper composition. Potentially could be Zarya outright, or take away either that Lucio or Kiriko that we saw them playing. Force them into either that Baptiste style that'll maybe make the Zarya play a little bit more reserved, a little bit unable to engage, have to making sure you're maintaining line of sight, because, you know, while he puts out a lot of healing, we do have to acknowledge Kiriko can teleport through walls for some awful reason at Blizzard, at Jeff Kaplan. I don't think he has anything to do with it anymore, but I'm adding him anyway. Why can Kiriko teleport through walls? But regardless here, again, it's about inhibiting that composition or finding ways to bolster your own right now. And yeah, that is going to be the Kiriko found dead in the streets here, so no teleporting through walls today.
Well, Kiriko ban coming out, I think it's so interesting because usually on Kings Row, people like to inhibit a brawl by banning out a Mei or a Lucio, or even just straight up going for one of the tanks, or Ramatra as well is also a really good option here. Zarya could have also been a valid one from Zero Recall, but to ban out Kiriko, this does force these guys to play maybe that Baptiste and Lucio mirror that we were seeing as well. Zero Recall were the ones, I believe Mei was the one playing the Baptiste here against Managarmr's Kiriko Lucio composition, and they had a lot of value with it every single time. So I like that they were kind of forcing, hey, we're gonna make you guys go Bap Lucio, very classic brawl backline to utilize here. Or this does also open up the field for just any other backline characters to be expended, to be showcased today. We've seen a lot of Moiras in the past. We've seen some Junos to an extent, but we've seen Briggs as well. So Brig Bap can also be an option. So yeah, I think the Kiriko ban is relatively solid coming in from Zero Recall, but I do think the Soldier ban is going to be very impactful against Mio.
Exactly. And it's just what we expect for both sides here, taking that Sojourn out of the mix. That way you don't have to play it. I'd be interested to see what Zero Recall's adaptation is, right? If they're going to continue to play the Ramatra style with the Bap Lucio, which I'm expecting, what do you replace that Sojourn with? Generally, in most cases, you can just substitute a Freya in. It's slightly worse. It's less consistent damage, but still high burst potential onto a single target. So it's that best of both worlds situation. But again, it's also going to be about making sure the follow-up is still there for Zero Recall, right? Making sure that people are in place to help out that Ramatra whenever they choose to go in and things of that nature. But again, it's one of those things of what's cooked up in the chamber here for Zero Recall, now knowing this.
Well, now we're going in. We're going to see exactly what first of all, it's very moving, but we have our King's Row loading in. We're going to see our teams get themselves ready for this attack and defense phase. Of course, 2 rounds. It is what it is. You can see how far we can push a payload, yada, yada. Y'all know how King's Row works. So here are our teams loading into the fray, and you see the Reinhardt of all things coming out. Also the Symmetra, at least in the spawn room for now from Zero Recall. And you know what? It's something that could definitely work against the Zarya, which of course Imperador, they guessed it. They're gonna run that Zarya again. This time not with Reaper and not with Sojourn. She's banned out, but with Yoshi's Pharah out and about.
Yeah, and the Pharah out and about, like you said, it is an interesting one to have here. But Zero Recall also still making pivots here, could potentially come out on the Mauga, and this is Mauga is a very interesting way to play into the Zarya, right? Because it's sort of a feast or famine style. If you end up just shooting bubbles all day, you are absolutely feeding your brains out. But if you're able to sort of wait out those bubble cooldowns, force them out, those 2 miniguns will certainly shred our favorite Russian tank down to ashes.
Ooh, Mio almost gets that elimination onto the Tracer. Secondary one, not going to find its mark either. Actually going to be committing to the Widowmaker at the same time. I think here's that Pharah being an option. It's like, ooh, wait, hold on. I can kind of put some people in their place. Even more so, like all the free space that was kind of given up for Managarmr, actually, with the Widowmaker. Wizard Recall is a Widowmaker here. That being said, we lose Choreo in that Tracer 1v1, and that gives Wizard Recall a 5v4 disadvantage that they don't really want to play into. Yoshi gets kind of scouted out early by Pack-a-Punch and then backs out away from the Alder's Hotel. Choreo's back, but Recall forced out early. It's a very, very, very slow game plan coming in from Zero Recall with that Mauga.
Exactly, and that's, again, it's a very slow game plan where you have to force out the bubbles from the Zarya here before you can really engage as the Mauga in this setup. Or potentially wait for a pick to come from your Widowmaker, but it seems like you're going all in a little too deep.
A little bit, right? But at the very least, they may be going in without really much payoff, but there's also like 0 charge having been given to Imperador whatsoever. My man is fighting demons, trying to get a little bit of damage with the Pea Shooter right now. That is the primary fire, but there's that follow I was looking for. The Pack-a-Punch stomp onto the back line, helping, and Choreo helps that out by getting those eliminations. Blame takes down Choreo as a last resort, but finally, after about a minute and a half, 2 minutes of a little bit of lingering around, Zero Recall will be able to find those 3 ticks and get about 5 minutes. The point? 5 minutes under their belts.
You gotta remember the objective sometimes, but again, that is a sometimes situation here, but Zero Recall now in control of the point. And again, it's really going to be on this Mauga to sort of be the driving force here. When you have a Widowmaker in play instead of a Sojourn, sure, you control the sidelines a lot better, but it isn't necessarily creating forward pressure like you were in the last round. Granted, it helps when the Orisa decides to just ignore the giant dude with 2 miniguns. So this fight is just kind of over before it has the chance to begin.
Well, also it sucks that we kind of talked about it a little, or alluded to it a little bit earlier, is the Orisa changes to Fortify inadvertently gave Mauga a big buff in that matchup against her. And I do think Per's going to struggle a tiny bit as we are seeing the payload move halfway through the objective, halfway through the street face of King's Row. Sights is also online for the next about 12 seconds here. You can see Managarmr are respecting that sightline, especially Yoshi and Ozzy, who do not want to go down early to that Widowmaker from Mio. Eventually, it's going to go down, and they're going to start this fight off relatively strong with some ultimates to boot. The pulse on goes down wide first, but finds nothing to start things off.
Nothing indeed. Oh, well, yeah, it's just happening now.
Yeah, we finally got a couple of again, this is very slow. Very slow, very chill. 2 picks does come out, and Pack-a-Punch is in the corner, and easily picked off by Yoshi. I love the cast from Yoshi, by the way. I think it's a really good swap.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you're not going to be able to contest Mio on any sightline unless you're mirroring the Widowmaker. So definitely just sort of ignore that. Hopefully, send your Tracer on that. In the meantime, you're going to be countering up the Tracer as well as putting the pressure onto Tupac here, making it so that Malga, who you know is running in alone, it can't necessarily run in for free anymore.
Yeah, for sure. And now is a really good spot to be in if you are Managarmr. You're staying in this really close area where the archway is, and you can see Tobacco Punch is rotating onto Yoshi, and the stomp into melee kill does come to fruition. But I have a Terror Surge, and everyone is able to get out easily. The backline is separated, though, and that means that, you know, Mei should have gone down, but everyone coalesced onto that Orisa to make sure that our Baptiste does not go down quite yet here. Even more so, Mei is still barely able to survive, and Ozzy not able to actually follow through on the elimination either. 2.5 minutes left, and Zero Recall are quickly running back to the payload.
Mei should. I don't know which deity you want to pray to, but go ahead, Mei, because you just lived through Armageddon somehow. It feels as though EMC just funded themselves in single file to try to kill this Baptiste, and nobody was able to get the job done here. So now, if there's going to be a contest, it's going to be incredibly late and staggered out here, at least for point B. So I think it's going to be better off for the defense to just wait until the next point.
Okay, Sunberry used in response to that cage fight. Cage fight does go down early, and so does a DMAC, unfortunately, from Parador. He did go over to D.Va to try to give a little bit of that damage mitigation with, of course, the Defense Matrix against a Malgo. Which on paper does work, but everything else is really working against Managarmr here. They're unable to follow up on the touch. They're unable to follow up on really strong the objective, and Zero Recall already forcing them all the way back into their spawn area once again. 3 minutes on the clock, and they have at least Sunberry here against the Deadeye.
Yeah, and obviously it's going to be a phenomenal tool here, but if Yoshi can be given pretty much all of the defense matrix in the world, there is potential for that Deadeye to just be channeled long enough to wait out the sound barrier and then fire off those shots of the high noon after the fact. Meanwhile, it's going to be a question of if that defense matrix can be dedicated, because as you're seeing, Imperator on the D.Va is just having to do any and everything right now. They're the only ones with any agency on the team.
Oh my god, Mio barely whiffed that headshot, or at least that damage onto Imperator on the high ground, but Tobacco Punch always really thrives in the chaos, charges right onto Yoshi, and then takes care of the baby D.Va. In the meantime, the car is being pretty much really unbabied by Managarmr. They're unable to go for a touch, and it looks like Mega, they're not gonna find one either way. High Noon is not gonna help you get to the point any faster. Zero Recall finished off strong with a 3-0 so far in King's Row with 2 minutes to boot.
Yeah, and being able to finish with time in the bank, it's always a good feeling for the people who do it. Of course, EMC going to be feeling absolutely miserable after that one, because it feels like once you got off of point A, you lost any and all answers. You weren't able to deal with anything, right? You wanted to deal with the Malga in the front line. That's why you swapped over to the Cassidy and the Orisa, but then all of a sudden the Widowmaker and the Tracer were just doing too much at that long range. So then you're having to make swaps over to the D.Va. And by that point, it feels as though the team is just too disorganized. They can't get back in line with each other to sort of deal with anything. So lots of different variables being thrown EMC's way here. And so far, it seems like they're lacking the adaptation they need.
No, they are, and that's why you can see kind of a blame in that spawn area, waiting to, you know, figure out what do we want to run in that backline. We know we want Lucio for the speed, but do we want to continue having the Baptiste? Do we want to continue maybe try a Wu Yang Lucio, a little bit of another backline that has some merit? Imperator, it looks like, does want to stick to this D.Va for a little bit longer, and Ozzy has taken up the mantle. Going to be taking that Widowmaker duel in against Mio, right? So that's, ooh, love the skin. That's going to be a really fun one to watch. I always love watching a little Widowmaker mirror here between both teams. Do recall, if it's not broke, don't fix it. They're running exactly what worked in the previous round. And as we start things out, we open up the doors, and is there any heads to peek out from? Looks like not.
I mean, listen, you know, you gotta look, you gotta see if anybody's willing to peek here. I mean, EMC on pretty much a full dive at this point here. I'm gonna be interested to see how Yoshi plans to navigate the map without taking 1 billion damage here, because the Pharah has, you know, enemies at every corner.
Not only that, but Yoshi's care is going to be very a little bit lackluster from the Baptiste and Lucio, only because you can't really aim either thing at the Pharah that consistently. And even though we did get that first elimination onto Mei and onto Mio, which should on paper be the win condition for Managarmr, they were unable to. Oh no, my man's stuck up there. They were unable to really stay alive long enough for anyone else to follow up on it.
Exactly, and when you're just not able to live, you're in situations like this here where you're seeing, Imperator having to do any and everything to try to get out here with mech still intact, and actually they might have found Tupac on overextended.
The lamp does save Tupac a punch a little bit, right? Thankfully from Mei, and there is going to be the touch here from Managarmr onto the point. It does go away now. They don't really want to get any progress, I guess. Mio would be the one to be looked at by the Diva, and then Parador goes back to the high ground. Again, no one going down to the point, but mind you, Zero Recall are very separated between Malga and backline. Unfortunately, Parador does overstay his welcome a tiny bit too long, and there is the elimination onto the Baby Diva, and the follow-up is very easy for Zero Recall to walk up on. 2.5 minutes left, and really not a whole lot of anything has happened from either side.
Yeah, not a whole lot of anything here, but again, it feels as though EMC is just split, not on the same page in the slightest here. And that split is definitely punishing them, right? You're definitely seeing the Diva not able to ascertain pretty much any value besides harassing people who are ending up getting healed. You're seeing the rest of the team getting carved off by this Malga, and just the damage continuing to rain down on them.
I mean, they're trying to go around the statue, trying to skip over to the high ground, skipping that neutral phase against Zero Recall. But Zero Recall easily have been able to rotate around it in response. And mind you, again, we basically abandoned our backline by going to that high ground. Parador does dive in, gets Vega out of the way, and we have the winner from Blame. So I do think this might be what Managarmr were looking for, at least something to look forward to. Pack-a-Punch is still there with Mei at the very least, but there is the dive onto Baptiste. The stun does come through, and the sound barrier is expended, really just as a precaution against Managarmr, against Zero Recall.
Yeah, and now Zero Recall is having to approach back onto the point here, and sure, you have the cage fight out, but there's so much you have to worry about.
Wait, the Diva Bomb comes in, destroys the cage fight. Barrage is also online here for Yoshi. They should know that's available. Both Baptistes have been taken out, so they gotta take care of Octo quickly. But Pack-a-Punch does not scout the fact that there's a bar in the air waiting to use that barrage. And finally, at the last minute marker, it's going to be 2 ticks and a third tick coming out for Managarmr. And all they gotta do is use this 3.5 minutes very wisely going down the rest of King's Row.
Exactly, and still having time in the bank here is incredibly crucial, but EMC, they did have to invest damn near every ultimate to get the job done. Meanwhile, Zero Recall, for their initial hold on point B, is going to have the walls from Mio as well as both support ultimates to work with here, so tons of sustained potential, tons of ways the defense can get back into a solid position.
Well, the cart's already moving relatively smoothly to this first point. Also, I love, look at this, Imperator is actually trying to go in. Might have gone a little bit too far in, unfortunately. It goes in against a 3v1 by themselves, and does get demed and kind of left alone to his own devices. And then taken down first by Pack-a-Punch. As the team here is being followed up on easily by Choreo and company. Even more so, they're getting pushed all the way back to their spawn area. And they have to. They got to wait for Imperator to even respawn and get mech back and then come out of the spawn area before they can even attempt at a touch.
And the attempt at a touch indeed here is what they're going to be trying for here. The question is, do they know that this Widowmaker is holding up on these high grounds here? And it seems as though they at the very least know it now here, with Yoshi not able to land a rocket, so having to just hide away here. As again, Zero Recall still with both support ultimates in the back pocket.
Look, Scary here coming in from the side of Zero Recall. It's so aggressive, and this allows them to just continue to keep these guys wrapped around their finger, and they're just unable to follow up on anything that Managarmr are trying to start things off with. But they're going to have ults going into this next fight, thankfully, and they only have to worry about maybe the cage fight going into it.
Yeah, and I mean, there are going to be tools to shut down a cage fight. I mean, it's a very common practice for sometimes people to be able to save ultimates. For example, barraging a cage would not be out of the question in the slightest here for Yoshi. But that being said, the barrage is actually building probably a lot faster than anybody expected. So Tupac's going to have to run.
Yeah, there goes Pack-a-Punch taking his sweet time away from that engagement where Yoshi's looking for that barrage, as you mentioned. Window does get used early from Mei. The other one does come in from Blame. But again, Pack-a-Punch is just kind of too far in there. Yoshi easily able to look down at the Malga and put all the pressure in the world against the character. Now following up, of course, is the rest of the team of Managarmr trying to find the Lucio next, and it's easy pickings for Yoshi to find Vega. There's a couple of people in the back line. Choreo does take care of Ozzy in the meantime, in the thick of it all. Mio getting kind of gained up on by Imperator and company. And finally, at the 45-second marker, these guys have a chance to get at least the second point cap.
Yeah, and granted, there is still a lot of ground to be covered before they can officially be on 2-point C here. And they are starting to dwindle in the time bank. Obviously, you have the barrage lurking here, as well as Octo with the sound barrier, which will be very nice for the cage fight that's coming up here. But look at this. I mean, you already have the Malga trying to scout for Afara, and they do find Yoshi out.
No, it's bad. They had the barrage, and it's not even gonna be a factor despite the 50 seconds left remaining. Farah's not exactly the fastest character in the world, but you gotta get back here fast. Cage fight does make everyone really far away from the payload for now. And Mio is just kind of free firing in the alleyway, taking care of Blame. In the meantime, Parador also going down for the count. Also tries to get at least one. But Mei, the menace of the Baptiste, so good at really finishing up a lot of these fights. Barrage takes care of Mei in the meantime, but Ozzy can only do so much contesting before inevitably Zero Recall take the win under their belts and then secure themselves at match point.
Yeah, now only one map away from sending EMC home for the season and keeping their lower bracket run alive here. And again, we see why the Malga ban came out on map 1 here. They definitely have this over-aggression down to a T here. But, it definitely came with its weaknesses here. We saw that there were plenty of times that the Malga was just going a little too deep into the enemy backlines here. So that could be a point of weakness for EMC to try to exploit as they're looking for any purchase in this series.
I think the D.Va was a little bit of a better option than the Zarya so far than the rest that we had seen as well. I think that they are doing a little bit better on those dives. I think they just need to be a little bit more cohesive, I feel like, with their dive opportunities and even their dive targets. And you mentioned it, like Mei was able to survive literal Armageddon multiple times, as a Baptiste, with the land being used, shift being used, things like that. We do get word that we're going to give these players a quick 2-minute break to get their bearings together, to get themselves ready and prepped mentally for a map 3 for Zero Recall, to take it all home and move towards that grand final spot, or for Managarmr, or not grand final spot, this is lower bracket, to move into lower bracket 2, or if Managarmr are going to actually get the reverse sweep from here on out. It's a big tall ask for them, but nothing is impossible. We're going to a very quick break, and we'll see you guys at the other end for this map 3.
But you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side. My love, you say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose.
Just like that, we're back from our very quick break, giving our players a bit of room to mentally go down a little bit, right? Very intense Kings Row game. Now we're going into map number 3. Managarmr are once again in the hot seat of picking where they want to go for map number 3. And again, we've expended our hybrid, we've expended our control pick, of course, Lijiang Tower. So we go over to a flashpoint. A push are some of the more popular options. Typically, teams don't want to go back-to-back payload maps. I would not want to go back-to-back payload maps, so I do expect to see a flashpoint or a push be the option of choice for Managarmr to make their last stand, because now they are the ones at the cusp of being bowed out of the Season 16 playoffs bracket for the EU GM tier.
Yeah, and again, it's been a very interesting match so far here between these two squads, where Zero Recall has had this sort of interesting style of brawl here that they've had to sort of adapt and change between the two maps we've had so far. And EMC has really been just trying to play catch up so far, and while they have their moments, they just haven't really been able to punch themselves onto something that can answer and do exactly what they need to get themselves on the board.
Yeah, for sure. They gotta get something on the board here. Something, a little something. And they were able to get a couple percentages on the side of Lijiang Tower. Actually, first round was relatively close on Control Center, really showcasing that Zarya and Reaper adaptability on Control Center. But then you go into King's Row, and it really just kind of came down to, we opened the point up, but then we were kind of mostly held at that archway for an insane amount of time, and they didn't really have the opportunity to walk out with any sort of confidence, especially going into some of those later fights, especially against the Malga. With that being said, looks like we are going to a push map for our next map here. Could be the last one of the series. Managarmr have chosen to take us over to Esperanza, and this is again where we might see the Malga make a reappearance, might see a Zarya again, might see Ramatra. Lots of big options here for Zero Recall and Managarmr to expend.
Yeah, lots of options, lots of things that certainly can come up here. And again, you know, Esperanza is a pretty solid map. Could also be our first potential look at a dive v dive mirror, as this map is typically more known for. But I also would expect both of our tracers to go absolutely insane here with the potential of this map, because again, lots of little nooks and crannies that you can sort of hide in and do exactly what a tracer loves to do best, which is be an annoying pest. But the question is, what's going to be coming up on there? As we see, we do actually have a substitution on the side of EMC. Scars is going to be coming in on that support line. You know, new face potentially could be the switch up that they need here to potentially get out some more healing and help these people establish in these fights better.
Yeah, for sure. I think Scars coming in for Octo might actually be maybe a little bit of a change of pace here for the side of Managarmr, and I hope it really does work for these guys. Zero Recall, however, sticking with their same 5 rosters that have been working fantastic throughout Lijiang Tower into now, ideally, Esperanza. See how that can also come into fruition. And the comps can always be changed up, but first, we gotta talk about our bans once again. As a reminder, Managarmr have already banned out Malga, they've already banned out Soldier, and they banned out some of the big key players, so I am looking towards, I mentioned it, maybe a Tracer ban might actually be the end-all be-all for these guys, just to put a little bit of, or at least take off some of that pressure from that front line or the back line to make sure that this Tracer is no longer on them all the time.
Exactly, and wanting to remove that pressure from the back line here is incredibly important, because again, it's sort of an underlying factor that we haven't really had the chance to highlight because of how active these tanks have been trying to be, or lack thereof, so far in this matchup. But the Tracers being able to hound these backlines, taking the healing out of the fight, even if it's not with a kill, just being able to harass them away and let their tanks be isolated long enough to remove them from the fight, is exactly what these Tracers are thriving at and doing what they do best.
Well, they're still deciding their first ban here. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard because if we're being realistic, if you're in the mental space of being the one, yeah, there we go, being the one in the deficit, it's like you gotta put your best foot forward, and they decide, you know what, Tracer is gonna be the best option here again, only because really Courier has been a really big problem on that Tracer. Now, to be fair, Ozzo has gotten a couple of really good lick backs against the opposing Tracer, and there's been a couple of trade-offs here and there, but when possible, Courier is really up that back line and making sure that they are distracted while that front line of Tobacco Punch is engaging on the front line. So Zero Recall have, again, their work cut out for them. They're going to go for the Diva ban. So again, a very big target ban onto the opposing team here.
Yeah. I will say though, I mean, taking the diva out of the equation obviously is what you want to do because it's what EMC have shown they want to play as a counter to the Mauga. Realistically, EMC, like, you could probably just either mirror the Mauga or potentially go back over to that Orisa now, right? Now that you don't have to be as focused on the sightlines and things of that nature, especially since Sojourn's going to be back in play. You're probably expecting to see that as well here instead of a Widowmaker that you're going to have to constantly jump on. I don't think it would necessarily be a bad shout in the slightest for EMC versus Zero Recall with the Tracer ban. I mean, realistically, you can kind of play the same stuff. The only substitution is just instead of a Tracer, you can play Genji for the Blade, or you could even have a Venture just for more escapability like a Tracer would normally have.
Oh, we're seeing a couple of swaps also coming in from both of our teams here. Not just from Managarmr. We have Imperator actually going to the support side, I think that reads correctly, and then Scars taking up the tank mantle. From Zero Recall, we have Bucky coming up on the side of Zero Recall, replacing replacing our favorite manga player, Tobacco Punch. We also have Phantom coming in as well in replacement of Mei Mei, right? So you see that on, you see that ball, you know exactly what they might be playing here. They might be going for just a full dive composition on Esperanza.
I mean, honestly, this would be like a masterful gambit. All of this banning and stuff, all this fear of a Mauga setup that they've inspired into the side of EMC, just to say, you know what, we're just going to actually play ball because we have that in our back pocket. I think it would be absolutely hilarious to have that one, that sort of switch up. And again, that's sort of the power that some of these teams have, you know, with the swap of a player or two, you can completely flip the style that they've been known for on its head and really make them an adaptable squad. That's something you can't really predict when you're going into matches.
Yeah, that's a benefit of having so many different players that can really fill in the space whenever need be. Having specialists also, as you mentioned, it's just really nice to be able to be like, oh, we're not really gonna want to play brawl here anyway. We're just gonna actually possibly put in our ball specialist and play some dive with no tracer, of course, but as you mentioned, you can fulfill that easily with a Genji as well to make up for the lost space the lost slot of a tracer and fulfill that role. That being said, I do like the Kiriko and Lucy being back in the fray, and I do think that we might see some of that, maybe even some Ana gameplay in tow at the same time. If Zero Recall feels so confident enough that if Managarmr are not going to be able to play dive, especially without the diva, that backline should be relatively safe from anyone else walking up on them.
Yeah, relatively safe, of course. Here we will have to see in practice if that's going to be the case. Because listen, you know, as somebody who's been starting to learn the support role recently, you can never truly be safe. It's not an option. I think you know that probably better than anybody. You could have the best team in the world around you, and you still won't be safe. If somebody wants you dead, it is just like that was the decision made, and you just have to live with it.
Yeah, especially if you're Ana, it's like, okay, my value as Ana is dying, but someone else dies with me. So it's okay. It works out. Someone's traded off for me at the end of the day, and that might be what we see from Zero Recall. But we're getting our R's ready. We're getting our teams ready to go lock and load into Esperanza. And I think Esperanza as a map, I think really does favor dive a lot here. I think the reason that we see Managarmr not want to go Runasabi, for example, is because you can easily, once again, play Mauga. I've seen it all the time. People always want to play Mauga on Runasabi or some sort of Brawl, Orisa, Zarya, what have you. And I think they were like, I don't want to deal with that anymore. I don't want to deal with that. And at least the safe high ground areas that Esperanza does offer you does give you a little bit of leeway to not really be as able to be walked on by a Mauga as Runasapi, for example. So I'm just yapping up my mouth. I'm trying to wait for these players to get ready so we can see how this series concludes. Because again, this is lower. This is all for all. Loser of this is out forever. Goodbye.
Yeah, and again, elimination is obviously terrifying when it's looming like that, but it can be that extra motivator that sometimes a team needs to be able to sort of push themselves to that next level here. And the question is, will it be that motivator, or will it just be the crushing defeat that you will feel here for EMC? Because obviously all eyes are on them right now, right? It is on them to take up a map to keep this series alive. Otherwise, their season will end just like that.
Yep. 100%. And now we're loading into Esperanza. You can see this beautiful, beautiful map starting to really take into our visuals here. That being said, music is starting to wind up, and here come our rosters. What are we going to see from these guys? Looks like we're going to see from Managarmr the Orisa, so far. And Zero Recall, looking like we are seeing the... Okay, well, that's spawn area. Managarmr are on an actual real comp, at least for now.
Yeah, obviously still in the spawn room here, but interesting that the setup that we've had, the setup that's gone on here has made both teams realize that speed isn't the option, which is very, very interesting. But it kind of makes sense for Zero Recall. The on a Brig backline going to be much more sustainable in providing that nano boost onto pretty much any of these targets as well. Will be majorly impactful versus EMC. Very slow brawl will be the way that you can phrase this.
Well, Zero Recall are playing again. We were talking about that brawl, dive with the Ana Brig and the ball, right? We have Mio on Soldier, so double hit scan coming in from both the Soldier and the Sojourn. So that's nothing confusing as all just to talk about. Yoshi is back on Pharah. Love it, trying to pressure out that back line, but the engagement is already happening from the side of Bucky, and Scar's being led from all angles, and there's just not enough. There's not enough mitigated pressure being put against Scar. Scar is taking everything really much face value, and now Zero Recall have the objective in the lead, and they're going to continue following up on everyone on this bridge, trying to clear out as fast as possible.
Yeah, and so, again, just being able to clear out that bridge here, you're seeing Bucky's drop incredibly low, but being able to get back to the Honor Brig and that Wrecking Ball will just be good to go for the next engagement. It's going to be about towing that line, being able to stay alive in these engagements for Bucky to really make sure the value is ascertained.
And Bucky is set up on his roof, and there is the follow-up. There's a power driver onto Yoshi, and funnily enough, a power driver on Yoshi is something that you never really would see with a Pharah in tow. But that being said, we lose Vega in the meantime. Bot is moving relatively easily throughout the streets of Esperanza, as pretty much Managarmr are basically on the bridge in their entirety. Easily does Koryo get that rail shot onto Blame, however, losing the Wuyong, really making sure that Imperador is the one putting in all that healing output, but the window is beautiful from Imperador, really putting in that pressure onto Bucky and getting the ball out of the way.
Exactly. And finally, with the Wrecking Ball removed, you're going to see Zero Recall backing out like you see now here. So EMC actually able to stop even the forward checkpoint from being secured here. That is a massive stop that you don't see too often on Esperanza ever since they made those payload changes a few patches ago. Now EMC going to be in the driver's seat, but they don't have any of these tools online.
They're not going to have anyone online either. Blame and Scars trying to at least get something started, but then it's just the power of Koryo every single time. But, oh, what I love about Pharah is that if you're in one little spot against a Pharah, you're just easy pickings for the character. Yoshi is continuously able to get these really solid one-off picks here. And Yoshi even gets the committal of the barrage in play against Bucky. This is really, really, really funny. I think Zero Recall played a little bit too much with their food there.
Absolutely. I mean, the Yoshi just was allowed to get away with murder, plain and simple here. Especially considering the fact that Zero Recall has both the Sojourn and Soldier already, right? I mean, realistically, just should be feeling the pressure at all times as Bucky committing just a little too late to stop the lead.
You hear sets from the back line, and everyone looks towards it. The spear does mitigate Mio's value with the Soldier's ultimate there. And also, unfortunately, the Tidal Blast committed from Blame, making sure that Mio really cannot play the game here. Ozzy following up with the onto Bucky, and suddenly Managarmr have something started here. They have something to work towards.
Exactly, right? And I mean, they were able to weather the storm of quite a few of these ultimates. Now only just going to be the Nano and the overclock here for the side of Zero Recall, but Managarmr being able to get the forward checkpoint here as well now, assuming the ball's not going to be able to touch line second, and maybe an overzealous use of Terra Surge.
I have to agree with you, and there's also the Nano Blade, you heard me, Nano and Overclock expended from Koryo and Phantom. In the fray of it all, Ozzy taken down by Mio. Mio's in the front line, taking care of anybody not looking at him, and that allows Koryo to get a little bit of downtime to get healed right back up by the Buyong. But mind you, Megalast, we're actually the ones in the deficit if you're Zero Recall. They are down by about 10 meters here, and they got to bring it back, because now I think Managarmr have also unlocked the checkpoint.
Yeah, they absolutely did. And so now that means everybody's going to have those forward spawns, aka they're back in the fight incredibly quickly, and they're going to be able to contest zero recall before they get their own forward spawns here, right? Obviously, Vega now has that title blast online, so giving that over to Bucky could be a massive boon in the side of Managarmr, but we will have to see if that value is found.
We're gonna have to see it, right? We have the objective are basically 3 meters from overtaking the opposition. Overclock finds Choreo trying to slide to safety and not safe enough. Vega, same song and dance, not able to use that aforementioned title blast that you had talked about in the fight. So this does give a really big fight win here for Managarmr on the shoulders of Bucky of Ozzy.
Yeah, and that overclock, I mean, it was just a raw, natural overclock being able to find those targets who are isolated. Again, with no speed, it feels as though everybody's kind of very isolated, very public about their positioning, and it's sort of leading to these sloppy mistakes that are being punished right now by the side of EMC.
She's ready, waiting on the rooftops for this barrage. Here it comes, and immediately shut down by Mio with that consistent hit scan damage from the soldier. Choreo is the one being looked at by this Orisa pretty much full force, but not able to find any sort of that spear onto the Sojourn. You hear the visor get used in the back line, and again, Imperador really able to shut it down immediately before it got any more value that, Managarmr did not want to deal with in the moment. They are the ones in the lead right now, funnily enough, and they got to figure out a way to bring it back because suddenly Managarmr looking fantastic in this game 3.
Yeah, again, with the slower style of game where there's not as much pressure here, Zero Recall really starting to suffer and be found out a little bit more here, but picks like that certainly can help them get the ball moving in the right direction.
Well, we're rolling into Terror Surge. Oh my goodness, and it still results in a win here for Zero Recall. You love to see it. Bucky now looking at Ozzy, and Ozzy is all by himself, and that's a cleanup of the century. I got a little scared though, Megalast, when I saw Bucky roll into the Terror Surge. I was like, oh, you're about to get cooked, buddy. But nah, we clean up nicely.
I mean, respectfully, I'm honestly just baffled at the fact that a Barrage Terror Surge didn't kill 18 people. Like, the fact that Zero Recall lived through that Armageddon somehow is a no small feat. And already with a pick onto Phantom as well makes it incredibly difficult for this attack to continue pushing.
This is what they needed. They have the checkpoint now. They have 3 minutes to go to overtake about 30 more meters away from Managarmr. Scars just snatch it away under their noses though, and no one cares. Nobody cares, actually.
Well, I mean, yeah, you lost both supports to Zero Recall, even with the forward spawns had to wait, and now Ozzy already got another pick here. So while the Orisa is stuck to the cart, there's apparently a Wrecking Ball with a Tidal Blast trying to go over here.
And there's no stun either, no follow-up. It feels like the comp is so much messier than we had anticipated. And the bot has pretty much gone all the way back to where it began. All that hard work from Zero Recall has been erased effortlessly by the Orisa, and more so, we are now pushing the objective to 90 meters. Yoshi looking at the back right of Phantom and Vega, and it has to back out, but then there's the new target of the Wu Yang, and now Yoshi's having a bad spot here. Needs to find a way out, but Choreo gets a rail shot easily. Scars also, as you can see in the health pool, looking very, very low. Window does get used to at least keep Scars alive with that extra healing output, and even more so damage output coming in from the window means that Vega is going to be the victim of the day. Oh, nade does connect, thankfully. Healing output is absolutely insane here from Phantom. And the fight, again, should be a big one for Zero Recall, but as I mentioned, the bot resetting itself is a big, big setback for Zero Recall.
Yeah, certainly, because this is literally just like a minute of fighting that just had to be spent re-getting the bot back to the correct side of the map, as well as some tools that were invested that you maybe wanted, right? You do have an overclock and attack visor for Zero Recall, but you don't really have much else beyond that here. And EMC so far has been pretty good at trying to track down the soldier. That being said, Mio does start off with a massive pick.
Yeah, you said the critical damage coming in from the Ana, and then Mio follows up on it with the Helix Rocket easily. Bucky will be the one on the point, now comes up to the high ground to help finish off this Orisa easily, but the barrage does mitigate that a little bit. The adaptive shields helps Bucky stay alive, and the overclock must get used just to stop Scars from, again, taking the bot away from the side of Zero Recall. I believe that is Yoshi just in the back, in the alley area, and unfortunately cannot stay alive, definitely not in the face of this Sojourn.
Yeah, no, beautiful overclock from Oreo there. So now EMC going to have to try to, potentially speed run their way back to the objective if they want to contest it before handing over the lead here. They do have a Terror Surge to work with, but in the face of this TAC visor here, I mean, Mio has been shut down, hasn't been finding value, but that doesn't mean that can't change now.
Well, here's a Terror Surge. There's no slide from Choreo, and Phantom either also going down. But Mio, as you mentioned, TAC Visor getting 2 eliminations. One off of the supports, and the other one just falling up onto the Scars easily. Yoshi is still in the air, still a menace to behold. But Vega easily finds the kill, and we also find that cap here, that overtake from Zero Recall in the last 15 seconds. We have minefields in about 9%, 8% in fact. They could definitely get that set up in time for themselves and get a separation onto Managarmr.
Yeah, and I mean, this is certainly an awful position for EMC. They feel like they had the lead the entire time, and things have already gone from bad to worse.
Even worse to worstest, that's even a word here. And then we had the minefield all over the objective, and really much that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Scar is the only one left in the fray, and that's just gonna be the end of the line here for Managarmr, bowing out in the long run. Playoffs no longer in their run here, but Zero Recall are moving on in the lower bracket, now up in the lower round 2.
I mean, lower round 2, lower finals, and believe it or not, you were right.
But really? Okay.
yeah, I was about to say, that's the great thing about when you have 4 teams in a bracket, you're already in lower finals. Again, very small, very condensed bracket here, and again, EMC, they definitely brought their best, but it just was not enough here. I feel as though Zero Recall, even on that last map where you and I both admit they looked scattered, they looked a little bit out of sorts. That synergy we'd seen from them the first 2 maps simply vanished into the ether. They're still able to get the job done off of pure mechanics alone here. So it's a good, solid showing from Zero Recall moving forward here. They're definitely going to need it as we get a look at the bracket here, where they will be going up against Bliss Excelsior next. And if they can win that, then they will get their rematch up against Budget Approved here. But obviously, a massive task ahead of them to get through Bliss Excelsior. So whenever that match happens, it will be an interesting one.
It definitely will be. But we also have an interview lined up, as always, for CGL. We're going to see exactly who we're going to get in the call, what we're going to talk about, and then we're going to talk to you about some other matches happening throughout the rest of the week, especially going into Sunday's matches as well. We'll see you guys at the other end of this break with some interviewees to talk to.
I'm not crazy, Malin. I'm not crazy, Malin. I've just been in a very bad mood for 40 years. 40 years.
And welcome back, everybody. After a 3-0 series, we are going to have an exclusive interview here for actually not Zero Recall quite yet. We're going to ask about Managarmr first and foremost. Of course, as you guys know, this is the exit interview. Their last this last match was their final in playoffs, going down to Zero Recall. I have Yoshi and I have Scars to give us the breakdown of what happened, not just today, but kind of just the regular season. So Yoshi and Scars, happy to talk to you guys, and I kind of want you guys to give me your version of events, you know, going in from week 1 of season 16 all the way up to the second week of playoffs. How has that journey been for you guys?
All right, so I'll start from the week 1. I think we started pretty decently. We got against this No in a 3-1, then Zero Recall 3-2, and Bliss Excelsior 3-1. Those games went pretty well, and we already saw like, okay, these teams are better than the others. There's like weaker teams, so against this team we can definitely win. Zero Recall was one of those teams. This Unknown was one of those teams. But how do I best explain certain people in my team did not want to play anymore because they found it too difficult with DGM tier. So it was kind of a backlash. Like the third week, we were winning, or no, the second week actually, we were winning. We were gonna win, like we were up in points against Zero Recall, and a certain person just like locks in a character we did not agree anything and starts trolling our game. So that happened. After that, our organization decided to put in an entire different roster that we did not decide anything about. So new people, new everything. Very fun as well. And I mean, now the last week, so week 8, I'm not gonna talk about any other weeks because I did not play in that, nor like wanted that. Last week, just the availability of the new roster was not really good, so I decided let's bring the old band back together. I don't know if you noticed, but mid game, Octo left, he rage quit.
Yes, we saw we saw.
All right.
I didn't mention it, but since y'all said it.
It's abysmal. It was not fun to play with him here anymore because the mentality just kept dropping, and like I did not want to play with him on my backline. And eventually Blame also left the call, so we did not hunt like the last 2 games, and which is kind of weird. The last game we felt it was super close, the push map that we just played. We had the lead for so long, and on the last fight there was a certain moment that Scars was asking for care, and if only my support was in the call. But yeah, it's kind of strange.
I did see you in the match chat say that, but I will agree with you. You know, that third game was super close. You know, and I do think that there is some merit in the competitions that you guys were able to showcase to us tonight, right? So Mega, please take it away with any burning questions you may have for Yoshi and Scars. Mega? Guys, I lost my co-caster. I lost my Mega Lab!
She died!
No, she died! Alright, so I'll fill in the rest of the interview for you guys. In that sense, right, what do you think... Oh, you guys give me a really big rundown of kind of what happened behind the scenes, which we, of course, didn't know anything about. Looking in the future, whether it's with or without, you know, Managarmr, or with Managarmr, or not with Managarmr, what do you guys think will be the future for you guys in competitive Overwatch?
Alright, so I'm redoing Managarmr fully. So other than Ozza that played today, the other DPS player, he's coming with. Scars will also stay in the scene, but we're redoing the team fully, a new backline. Also gonna trial a new tank, just gonna figure like things out and try our best. To be honest, I feel like it was not that bad, or like the GM. I felt like it was playable on some regards. We didn't really get coached for the first weeks, so we didn't really learn anything, nor like got information out of those games to actually improve on. But yeah, for me, like as a player, it on itself, definitely moving forward, like maybe even trying different teams or just kind of whatever. But we have left EMC, the organization, and because of what they forced on us, and yeah, we're gonna see what happens. But moving forward, definitely. I don't know what Scars has to say.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same sort of feeling, isn't it? It's we entered this fully well knowing that we weren't expected to win it, but experience is experience. It would have been nice to go into GM tier games, have games weekly, and then see where we could improve to compete consistently.
Yeah, that was the original idea.
Play
the game, probably
From the
lose,
beginning.
but like at least see because the first game 3-1, second game 3-2, those were close games. It felt really winnable, but instead of following up with that, okay, this is something you did wrong, we did not get anything, and it's kind of just died off. So
Yeah, and that happens to the best of every team at some point.
yeah,
Like,
every
that
team has
happens
to go
too,
through
so-
something like this.
I'm glad you guys don't sound super dejected about it. I feel like I love that you guys are kind of looking forward to the future.
Yeah, we're happy. We're happy.
Yeah. You guys are looking forward to building and even trialing for other teams or whatever is in the cards for you guys. And last question: is there anywhere that we might see you in the future? Maybe other tournaments, or will you guys be coming back to CGL in the next season?
Well, we'll definitely come back next season with Managarmr.
Perfect.
So you'll see us there. And then probably Kaizen, IOWL. What else is there?
I mean, we've got a team in IOWL at the moment that
Nice.
we don't play for them, but we do coach them. So we'll see how they do. But I think, Managarmr, once it's rebuilt, we want to play.
Definitely a future, yeah.
Yeah, we want to play. That's the most important thing. We want to play.
Love to hear that. And last question, I know it's kind of late for you guys, so last question, and you can both answer, of course. Shout out. Who you guys want to give a shout out to on the broadcast?
Oh no. How's that, to be honest?
Yeah. He kind of sucked it up through everything that was going on there. He sucked it up and put out a performance. So yeah, Ozzy.
Yeah, played really well this game, every game, and I just one hell of a dude, I'll say.
I love Ozzy,
And of
man.
course CGL. Who else but CGL? Thank you for organizing this every season. It's amazing to play. The amount of teams, it's crazy. We did
for sure.
last season as well with same team, so really fun with the casters as well, that you get so many games in. So yeah.
No, thank you so much for your time, guys. And again, cannot wait to see you guys in the next season, and also any other tournaments that you guys are able to be part of. I wish you all the luck in the next couple of weeks, next couple of months before the next season starts, and I'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
And with that being said, we have one more interview coming out your way. Thought we forgot about you, Zero Recall. We did not. We gotta figure out exactly who we want to interview from you guys, and also where you guys are looking forward to in the rest of the playoff bracket now that you are in the lower finals against Bliss Excelsior. We're going to go to a very quick break, get our next two interviewees up on deck here, and then we'll close out strong. And we're back. Our next set of interviewees are locked and loaded from Zero Recall, our winners of the lower bracket or lower round 1 match here. We have Mio, we have Tupac Punch up on deck. You guys are first of all, fantastic showing from you guys in general between you and the rest of your team here. The flexibility that you guys were able to showcase to us was absolutely fantastic between all 3 rounds. And I guess I can go into my first question. Going into this match, getting that 3-0 victory, do you expect it to be the same as you finish out the lower bracket and hopefully get into grand finals?
Tupac, you want to take that one?
I'll take this one. Thank you very much, Mr. Mio. The next game probably be a lot more challenging. We lose a lot to them in scrims, but we've slowly been like improving against them. So maybe next time is the time that we take the dub.
All right, and well, yeah, it's Bliss Excelsior, right? They just got the 0-3 against DYF budget approved, so you have two pretty big titans in the bracket. Well, again, only 4 people in the bracket to be completely fair, but still some pretty big people to go up against. And I will say, is there anything that you have in the back pocket, maybe readied up for your match against Bliss Excelsior next week?
Might have a little brainstorming to do. We have a few little things to really see if they work, and then maybe we can try them against BX.
Okay, wonderful to note. And you know, you guys have had a pretty solid regular season, right? You guys have some really good map wins, some really good match wins at the end of the day. And honestly, I really do want to kind of probe the match today and how it went. It was a 3-0, right? But we went to round 3 into map 3 of Esperanza, and it looked like they almost had you guys there for a good portion of the map. Can you guys kind of break down what might have happened to allow that momentum to get away from you, at least momentarily?
I think we thought we already won. Like, we went into Esperanza, and like we saw Yoshi like kind of like being raged in the chat, and we like, it's an easy dub. But they gave us a pretty hard match, to be honest, and we had to lock in. We weren't really locked in, but in the end of the day, we locked in and we win.
No, for sure. And the ball composition, is that something that you guys always, you know, swap over to player-wise, and then composition-wise? Is it something you always do on Esperanza, or is it kind of just like you felt it was right in the moment, given the bands that were on deck there? I believe it was a Tracer, and I want to say like I don't remember. I think it was
Diva.
something, but it was Diva? Okay, yeah. Was there a reason why you guys wanted to go for the ball in that comp, or in that map?
We usually don't really play the ball, cause but it's something like we're looking forward to play more, and to focus more on and to get better on. So now the ball composition is kind of like, it's kind of mid, but we make it work, and I think we'll get much better at it.
Well, very wonderful. Thank you so much for your answers. And for the final question, 'cause I know it's pretty late for you guys over there, I do want to ask for a shout out from both of you for the broadcast.
Anyone watching, our team, EMC, and like of course anyone you guys like behind the scenes maybe.
I wanna shout out my fellow friend Bucky for finally playing ball for us, and my team captain Koryo for doing a good job holding the team together and sorting scrims, matches, and such as. And I'm gonna shout out my tank, Tupac Punch, for being great,
Thanks,
both
man.
our good friend and the best Malga in EU.
Oh.
Can we ask one question before you go?
Yeah, for sure. Floor is yours.
Can we get your MVP for the game?
Our MVP for, oh my god,
Not to put you on the spot. You can think.
Okay. Off the bat, I will have to say it. For me, it was Mio. Megalast is unfortunately.
Oh, okay. Just take it back.
disconnected.
I'd take it back.
But take it back. I'm sorry. Listen, Mio, you had some incredible rail shots. You had incredible overclocks, man. Like, man, you were looking at that other Tracer before bro knew where he was. Like, listen, it was really, really good. So, Mia, you're my MVP personally. I'm sure if production wants
Well
to
done, Mia.
jump in, they're gonna give theirs, but that's from me, and I love that. Thank you so much for that question.
No
But
problem.
otherwise,
Thank
you
you so
have
much.
another couple of matches left in the back pocket. Bliss Excelsior coming up next week, so can't wait to see when that is on stream and how you guys fare into Bliss Excelsior. But with that being said, I will let you guys go. Have a well-deserved celebration, well-deserved rest at the same time, and that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a
No
lot.
problem. Have a good one, guys.
Good night. Bye bye.
Good night. And finally, after 2 interview processes, we have concluded this absolutely fantastic series. Once again, Zero Recall with that 3-0 under their belt against Managarmr, being the ones to force that exit from one of their fellow teams, right? One of their fellow GM teams in the 4-man bracket. So Managarmr are leaving at 4th place. We do see some of the other matches that happened earlier in the day, all EU, of course. T4 Demons taking that 3-0 against Bliss Marauders. T6 at 3-1. We also had Bliss Excelsior, which we were just talking about with, this is flipped around, but Bliss Excelsior was 0-3'd by DYS Budget Approved. DYS Budget Approved are the ones sitting in grand finals at the moment. And of course, we just concluded this absolutely fantastic series. I'm Mott. That's Mega Frozen. Mega, I miss you so much, baby girl. But with that being said, thank you so much to Friday for covering and producing this match. Thank you so much for Lottie for, first of all, back-to-back streams, OBSing as always. Thank you so much for for observing and sticking it out with us in this EU match. And with that being said, we'll see you guys in the later couple of days for some more EU and NA action happening tomorrow. I believe Diamonds online. I think Open Tier is also online as well tomorrow. We have some matches lined up for next week. Plan your matches. NA, it's Thanksgiving week. Plan around it accordingly, please and thank you. And have some happy holidays, have some good food, spend time with your family, and we'll see you guys for some more matches starting tomorrow.